Good evening, Reds. This is your host, Javis Cocker on Jarvis Cocker's Corner on MUFC Realist TV. Tonight we have a special show for you. We will be talking about some hypotheticals. If we signed all the players we are linked to, how will the squad react? On competition for places in the starting 11. How will Dalot react competing against Mazraoui? How will Yoro react when he competes against the Ligt? Will there be fights in the squad? Will people cave under pressure? Will they thrive under competition? It will be very exciting. We have special guests coming on as usual. I have my host Stu Wally. I have Tom, Journalist One. Football Power Hour Poppy is coming on the show, and Uncle Jimmy will join us later. So stay tuned, and we will be back after the intro. So see you in a second.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to...
Good evening, everybody, and welcome, Reds, to Jarvis's Corner on MUFC Realist TV. And with me tonight on my left, or is it right? I don't know how it is for you, but there is the man himself, Mr. Stu Woolley. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just actually fresh from another podcast, which I don't normally do two in a night, as you well know. But I was guest on the Weekly Armchairs United Road podcast with Callum. So if you get a chance, go and watch that as well, guys, because it was really interesting tonight. And we did a little end of show bit of fun about what types of football boots I have. So if we have time, I might just show you.
Well, and we have, as usual, Tom, Journalist One. How are you doing, Tom? Are you doing well? How was the weekend?
Yeah, I've been doing well, guys. Not too bad. Busy week last week and everything. Took a bit of a week, well, for the weekend anyway. Took it off, chill out a fucking bit. Stress has been fucking through the roof with some stuff. I might discuss it with you guys, maybe off stream and everything, with a couple of deals and that I'm a bit pissed off about, but we'll discuss that maybe privately because I can't discuss it publicly. But yeah, it's just one of them shit weeks, I guess. But took the weekend to chill off, refreshed, and I'm a bit happier today for a couple of reasons. But yeah, not too bad, and I hope everyone else is having a good week. And we'll talk some football.
Yeah, it will be nice. It will be nice getting back to the football. You know, I'm starting to get sick of this transfer window. So many rumors. We are linked to almost everyone in the world who has a pair of football boots and play football professionally. Is it any links that you heard lately that interest you?
Not really. There's nothing that's absolutely blown me away. I mean, I understand the Mazraoui link and why he would be considered.
How do you pronounce his name? Mazraoui.
I understand that link in as much as he's got form with Ten Hag, and he kind of unlocked I can't even believe I'm saying this, Antony, or a different type of Antony that we currently see, which basically you tighten the padlock. You wouldn't unlock the padlock with him. You tighten the padlock and chuck him wherever he needs to go. And I can see there's probably, I could see a combination of why they're willing to pay that little bit extra, because it probably looks like to the outside world we're paying less for De Ligt if we get De Ligt, but ultimately it'll still be the same money. So I think there's a little bit of messing around with that. Looks like Wan-Bissaka won't sign a new contract, or has not even been offered a new contract, I've heard. So if that's the case, then you've got to do something. But it does beg the question, does this Mazraoui, we'll call him Maserati, shall we? We'll call him Mazraoui. I don't think he is. I don't think he is a Maserati. But, if this guy can't play left back, for example, if he can't play across the back four in terms of both fullback positions, we're woefully short again, aren't we? At left back, we would consider. And so is he any better than Dalot? Yeah, probably. Does he score more goals than Dalot? No, because I think he's only scored about one in the last 4 years or something along those lines. But he did play quite a lot of games for Bayern Munich last season. I think he played 20 odd plus, and he's obviously well known to De Ligt, and he's well known to Antony, and he's well known to Zirkzee, and he's well known to Ten Hag. So, is he the value or the type of player we're looking for? I would imagine you would argue that he probably offers us a more versatile role down the right than what my good old mate Aaron Wan-Bissaka did. But I think for Wan-Bissaka, he's got family connections, hasn't he, in London? I know his children live in London.
It's true.
Would he be better off going back? West Ham's not exactly a bad place, but I did hear that he was being offered a higher wage at West Ham than what he currently gets at Manchester United, which is phenomenal. And I did hear with Ten Hag. So I think the surprise, and I don't want to talk about other clubs, but I think the surprise transfer for me is Smith Rowe off to Fulham for 30 million quid. I think Arsenal have done quite well out of that, considering he's hardly kicked a ball for 2 years.
Yeah.
Right, 30 million quid out of Fulham. So that's a hell of a deal. So will Fulham be that generous if they come in, because they're supposedly putting a second bid in, aren't they, for Scott McTominay? So I had to have a giggle today. I was watching Mark this morning. Mark was on fire this morning. By the way, he put a plug for our show on, which is quite good this morning. But he was absolutely on fire. But he started laughing when the De Ligt nonsense story came out. I think what would be more plausible if somebody actually wrote that Barcelona will do anything to get rid of, sorry, not De Ligt, De Jong, do anything to get rid of De Jong, who's daft enough to take him, kind of article. So I think
do you, by the way, know the wages on De Jong?
600 grand.
I heard Red Devil United talked about him. I think he said 720.
Oh, so yeah, 700.
720.
Well, I mean, it's just fucking daft, isn't it? It's just I mean, if he's on that type of money, but we don't want him. So what I'd like this week is to see some serious moves. I'd like to see some serious moves, some outgoings and some incomings. If we get Ugarte over the line on loan, I think that'd be brilliant. If we get De Ligt, I'll be more than happy with that, because I think there's a system that Ten Hag would want to play or could play. I think there's De Ligt opens up a world of possibilities for us. I saw something yesterday. But again, I think it was lazy journalism that we're interested in a further striker. I just thought that was lazy journalism. So,
there was some German guy, wasn't it, linked?
Today
or whatever. Yeah,
I don't know. So, we've got to seriously move on the likes of Lindelof. We've got to seriously move on the likes of if Casemiro is staying, you've got to move McTominay on. You have to move one or the other. I know we got 10 goals last season, but we've got to be more productive and more proactive moving forward. So I'm a bit. It's quiet, isn't it? And it needs to liven up again. I think this week is quite telling, I believe, on where it would be, because we take the a week on Saturday. We go to the Community Shield, don't we? So I think we need to be in a better position than what we are at the moment.
100%.
Apart from that, yeah,
100%.
good.
Tom, hold that thought on McTominay. I just want to say hi to the VAR room, and we have a super chat. So first of all, we have a super chat from Jonathan Liljenberg coming in with the 20 kroner from Sweden. He say, well, hi, legends. Jarvis, 100%. Big up, Jonathan Liljenberg. Good to have you in the house. Fantastic. And thank you for the generous super chat, my friend.
Yes, thank you.
I want to say hi to the other people in the VAR room. We have Lillis in the house. Big up, Lillis. We have John Kermode. Johnny K is in the house. Mark N just joined us. Scotty at the wheel. Fellas, how good does it feel? We have Scotty at the wheel. And Mark Davis. Sam is here. Danny B. Yes, Danny B is in the house. G Wolf always. And Thomas Svedianos from Sweden comes in and say Jarvis corner back on track. Well, not completely on track. I was in Sweden yesterday in Luleå playing golf for the weekend, so I couldn't make it back home. It was an 8-hour drive, so I was a little bit late. So I couldn't make it yesterday. I'm so sorry, but we are doing it today, and it will be a brilliant show. So just hit that like, smash that subscribe if you haven't. And now to Tom on McTominay. Would you keep him or would you sell him? How do you see the future for the Slabinator or whatever we can call him?
I don't know something, right? He's the one player who's had every name in the book, hasn't there? They used to call him, what was it? McTominay, McPassion, McSauce. There's fucking every name that's been going about him.
Wasn't it McDominoes as well at some point?
McDominoes or something. He wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. But look, I think at the end of the day, McTominay, I always phrase it with players, and I've done it with other players in this squad, and McTominay's no exception to the rule. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I think he's been here, 7-8 years properly in this squad. First team player.
Came in with Mourinho, I think it was 2017, the season we won the Europa League.
Okay, so about 7 years. About 7-8 years. He signed 2 contracts in that time, 2 contract extensions. And as I say, if you've been here for 8 to 10 years and you've not won one of the big 2, or you've not played a massive part of a reason why we should keep you, the door's there. That's my policy when it comes to players at Man United. I don't want players who are bang average, who will turn up for you one season, turn up for you in moments. I don't want that. I want players who have some consistency. And my version of consistency, guys, is I don't care what you do for 5 games in a row. I don't care. I care what you do for 5 seasons in a row. That's my consistency.
Yeah.
I have high ambitions and high standards for this football club. And we've all seen this club years by. Scott McTominay, years ago, as a player, he might have got away with it in another decade because passing ability, movement wasn't as brilliant in, say, the 90s in football or the early 2000s. But you're in modern day football 2024, where the game moves, it's rapid, it's fast. A pinball machine's probably less quicker than how football is passed at the moment, especially at the highest level. And I'm sorry, but McTominay is not of that level. And for me, from what I've seen anyway, he's never been blessed with a ball at his feet. You're either blessed with it or not. He's not. The only thing that I would maybe make an argument for him is that he can score a couple of goals in the other end of the box. Yes. He's a threat from the other end of the box.
Mm.
But aside from that, and maybe he'll stick a tackle on somebody 2-footed in a derby, he doesn't really offer me much. He's not one of, for me anyway, he's not my kind of cup of tea player. I don't mind somebody who's going to be a bit aggressive or anything, but you need to be more than just aggressive to play for Manchester United, because I can name thousands of players that are aggressive players that don't play for Manchester United. One of Stu's favourite players that went to Bayern Munich played at Fulham, and he's only 27, 28, and he's at Fulham.
Paulinho.
That's one of them that I'm just talking about now. McTominay, for me, I've seen enough of what I've seen for 7 or 8 years. Fair enough, he might be people associate this thing with a squad player. He is not a squad player. He's not a player that I would bring off of a bench in the Champions League final if I need something, or I need to shore a game up in a Champions League final. He's not that sort of player. Not for me. So if I'm basing it off of his whole tenure while he's been at the club, not just right now and last season for 10 goals, his whole tenure at this club, he's not won one of the big two. I don't think he's that. If we sell him, I don't think we're going to miss him that much. That's my personal opinion. And I think in terms of the money that you could use if you get 30 million for him in the market, I think there's better value out there. I really do. You can pluck players from nowhere, or for, like we said before, guys, we had that ludicrous story that we went on about on last Monday's show about Fernandes and Sancho going to PSG, and you get Ugarte and Simmons back separately in loans or whatever package. I'd have done it. I would have done it. But again, like I say, I think talent, at the end of the day, I don't think there's a lot of talent in McTominay. He's not blessed with the ball at his feet, like I say. And for me, over the whole tenure of his time at Man United, I don't think he's been as much as a roaring success as people make out.
No.
But I've got nothing personal against the guy. He's put the shirt on plenty of time. He's been in big games, big derbies and stuff. He's had big moments. He's been in finals and stuff and for the club and that. But when the going gets tough, he's not one of those players that stood up above the rest of them. And that's not good enough if you want to play for Manchester United. Not for me anyway. And when you've got 18-year-old kids sitting next to you who are basically, pardon me, taking the piss out of you, really, for what you've done for your whole career, and you've wasted, and you've been here 7 years, and you've got Kobe Mainoo who's just come through the ranks for 6 months, and he's already in the England national team, he's at a major tournament, all the rest of it, guys. He's been a global success. That just sums up for me. And they've had the same trajectory through the youth ranks, everything. But as much as people want to say it, I'm going to make the last point anyway of it all. The only thing that I think has been his God-given right and Satan of it is that he's got a personal family connection to the Ferguson family. And that's one of the reasons, personally, I think influence-wise within the club is probably one of those attachments as to, well, when we weren't run properly, guys, by proper sporting people who judge you on sporting merit and performance as opposed to actual value of what you bring commercially, that's the difference of what I'm talking about. So players like McTominay skip through the net, but they don't skip through the net anymore because they're getting found out.
Yeah, I think you touched on many points, and I think we all agree when it comes to McTominay, and especially when you mentioned these young kids coming up, Toby Collyer, we have Maxio DLA, we have, as you mentioned, lot of youngsters coming up, talented kids. And why is McTominay there, blocking their pathway into greatness? When we know that McAverage is what is, he's average. He will never be good enough.
But he was the future once. He was the future once. He's not anymore.
But playing the devil's advocate, coming in, Poppy, big up, Poppy. Glad to have you on Jarvis's Corner. It's been a while since you've been a guest here.
There you go.
Fantastic to have. Did you catch the talk on McTominay? So for you, let's just try to play the devil's advocate. Why should we keep McTominay? Is there any?
Yeah, I'm one of those people, as Tom already alluded earlier on. Like, McTominay is incredible. The story of McTominay is funny because, like, he's somebody that bailed us out a lot last season. Without him, we would have been about 8th or below. The moments where, like, we had the games versus Brentford, there was so many games that, like, just at the very, very, very last second, he comes in and gets the equalizer or gets the winning goal. And so like, I thought in terms of looking at his evolution, because I believe he debuted in 2017 at Man United, right? And from 2017 until now, you've seen very few spurts of like the player that he can be. And I liked the element that he's somebody that can function in many different positions. And he's like, especially when you need somebody to sort of lock down a scoreline and you need to sort of protect the lead. He was called before Ten Hag. That's sort of the role that he could play, like in a defensive position, whether it's a center back or like just as an additional defensive midfielder. And so I looked at him that way, as like somebody that in the midfield, he just brings that sort of like, safe pass, traps the ball, passes it on, and then moves into space. And that can be a useful, thing. But like with where we want to go at Manchester United, it's slowly hitting me that like it's time for a change. I am one of those people, Tom, that has been guilty about calling him McNaldo, Mctominay. That especially I have a shirt that has Mctominay at the back, and I really was supporting him mainly. Okay, this shirt, the honest truth is I bought it for my lady, and she actually gave it back. She was like, "Nah, I do not want Mctominay." So anyway, so the main thing is I looked at him as somebody, when you're building a squad, you need those type of players that sort of are happy to come in and sometimes rescue you when it seems like there's no other way out. And that's really the role that he played last season. So I was sort of like surprised when Ten Hag came in. He started becoming more of this like offensive sort of option that we would bring, and he'd sort of play like the number 10 or second striker or just behind Hojlund. And then that was the other thing that was baffling for me. I was just like, okay, so since he's so versatile, it seems like if there's a ricochet in the box, he's the quickest with the reactions to sort of get that shot off. Is this guy really useful? And honestly, the more and more I think about it, I know we want to play devil's advocate, but like Jarvis, I think we can do better than a player like Scott McTominay, And even for rotational purposes, even for somebody who's content becoming a second option and not necessarily starting. I love the passion that he brings. I actually thought like we got rid of the wrong one in the pair when we had McFred back in those days. We should have kept Fred and got rid of McTominay. But Mark Solskjaer, like Lily says, I was happy and I'm so grateful for the moments that he's given us. But like the main thing is like I'm starting to come to this realization that if we really need to want to make the next leap forward, this is the time to get rid of like Deadwood, and McTominay is a big part of the Deadwood. So yeah.
I think that ends the McTominay debate. I think we all agree that he just need to go simply. But the thing is, I think there's been some bids for McTominay, somewhere in between 13 to 17 millions, I believe. But we want in something about 30 to 35 millions, I believe, the valuation of McTominay. So they haven't met the valuation on their bids, or do you have something to add, Papi?
No, in terms of the valuation and the bids, I know there's still like a little bit of a mismatch between the two clubs. But the main thing that I wanted to go back to is the question that you asked Stu about any transfer rumors that are sort of like, catching your eye. And there's this Rabiot talk that is heating up. I'm seeing more and more like higher tiers just sort of like talking about Rabiot, and I don't know. That's what I wanted to also just make sure that we touch on that, since we're on this midfielder conversation before we get into the agenda. Like where we all know the baggage that Rabiot comes with as a player and the extra stuff, but like in the midfield, I feel like he could actually be something that could be of value to us, especially in the Europa League games. Especially, Jarvis is shaking his head. But I just feel like he brings something a skill set that we don't really necessarily have that ball security, that ball shielding, and we saw how important he was in the Euros for Didier Deschamps. Like he pretty much played every game, and of course, the kid, what's his name, Lamine Yamal, sort of embarrassed him, but there is still a player in there for a short-term contract. What do you guys say?
No, before we go to Stu, I just want to say when it comes, my opinion when it comes to Rabiot is he's a typical Glazer signing. He's a big name. He's on high wages. He's at his last big contract. He comes to United to cash in. So for me, I think he's a typical Glazer signing, mercenary, no spirit, no heart, big name, not a footballer anymore. For me, it's a big no, it's a big red flag, and I think we should do whatever we can to avoid signings like Rabiot. It's not about Rabiot per se, it's about those type of signings. I think it's the wrong signings to do. We have tried it over and over again, and it hasn't worked. So now it's time to be sensible. Don't think about the flashy name. Think about the best games you have seen of Rabiot with Juventus in the Champions League or in the World Cup, because it's not all that. He's mostly up and down. He's the same as Juventus. They never have performed consistently the last 3 to 5 years. Nothing has worked for Rabiot, and we know he comes with the baggage with his mother. It's a lot of noise. So for me, it's a big no. Over to you, Stu. What's your take on Rabiot?
Yeah, Rabiot is a difficult one because I quite like him as a footballer. But actually, I don't really disagree with what you're saying. I think you're probably right in terms of where we are in his career. I think I agree with you. But Papi's equally correct that he was instrumental and has been instrumental for France over the past few years, not just this Euros, but the World Cup and that before. But you're absolutely right about Juventus. He hasn't lit up Juve. It's a difficult time to be a Juventus player. It's a difficult time to be a PSG player. And I mean that by the types of players in and around them at PSG with Neymar, that type of thing. And when you go to Juventus, you're kind of scraping the barrel with the types of players that they've got. It's a difficult club to be around in. Could he do something at Manchester United? Let me tell you something about Rabiot. Rabiot is a different type of midfielder that the Premiership hasn't seen before. He's quite tall, he's quite big, he does hold the ball quite well, he's very powerful. And as Mark says, he's got that winning attitude, that winning mentality. So that's everything you need from a footballer. What you don't need is, and I don't want to talk about Veronique because we know she's a right royal pain in the arse by all accounts. She pisses off everybody. So Jarvis is 100% on the button with that. But you've got to look at the type of personality. So it's all right having those footballer traits, but if you don't have equal personality traits, it's very difficult to meld you and mold yourself into a team. And this is the biggest issue with modern day footballers today. They're either selfish or they play for the club that they're employed by. Those are the only two types of players you get. You don't get anything between anymore, unfortunately. So when I was growing up, and I'm old Pappy, by the way, pal, I'm a 70s child. So when I was growing up, football was a different landscape at the time. You know, pitches were terrible, kits were terrible, balls were terrible, equipment was terrible, but they were proper players. So they gave it everything, 100% tackling all the time, 100% pace all the time. And the ability of a 70s and 80s footballer compared to a player of today, although a player of today looks more genuine on the eye, they're probably nowhere near as gifted as a football talent as a player from the 70s and 80s because what you've had to put up with. So you spoke brilliantly and very eloquently, so did Tom actually, about Scott McTominay. You both were brilliant in your analysis about him. His biggest problem is he lacks the ability, and this is Rabiot's issue as well, by the way. They lack the ability to look at the squad and think about their future within that squad. So if you're in and around Casemiro, you're in and around KB Mainoo, you're in and around, just say, for example, Ugarte comes in, just say, for example, Rabiot comes in, right? And you're Scott McTominay, you've got to make a decision about what type of player you are. Where do you stand out? What cuts you above Rabiot? What cuts you above Casemiro? What cuts you above Kobe Mainoo. And you have to have this mentality to be a really elite footballer. And if you haven't got that mentality to be able to analyze your own game against the people that play within your area, maybe a 10 as well, then you think to yourself, okay, I'm competent in this position. That's my preferred position. But if I evolve in a position where I'm competent at, I become a more valuable asset to the team. So for me, and I'm a great example of this, so I can kind of speak with a little bit of experience. I'm a CDM predominantly. That's where I hate CDM, by the way, as a defensive midfielder. And I've managed to adapt my game to go backwards because as I was getting older, there were younger players coming in. So I had to make myself adaptable. And I had to make myself undroppable in a team of younger players. And so I went away and I worked up my game. What Tom was saying and what Papi have both said is Mctominay hasn't worked at his game. He is this player that's got to a stage in his career and he's decided himself not to develop. Now, to me, that's fucking criminal. Absolutely criminal. And Rabiot is exactly the same because what Jarvis is saying, take away his winning traits and what he does for, on the ball, off the ball type thing. He hasn't really developed as a footballer. Now, is that because he's been in the wrong environment? And if that's the case, is Manchester United the environment will allow him to maybe get the best out of him for the next 2, 3, 4 years? I don't know. None of us have got the answer to that. But the problem that we've got, and we've had it with too many players, they're too scared to develop themselves. They come out their comfort zone and they can't flourish. They can't open their plumage like a peacock. And you should be, because every great player is as arrogant as it fucking gets. So when they walk onto that pitch, their fucking tails are fucking sprayed out, their chests are out, and they're looking around and saying, nobody can fucking touch me today. Mctominay doesn't fill you with that. And I'm not sure Rabiot does either, but I will say, he would fit in quite well to us. I do worry about him being a mercenary, Jarvis. I do, mate. I don't think you're wrong there at all. But he would actually do something for us because he would certainly up the tempo of aggression, which we're lacking big time. He's big. He can head the ball. He's strong. So they won't get around him. He's not particularly quick. So his positional play will have to be better. But I wouldn't say he's. I wouldn't say he's Pogba 2.0, Dan. I get your analogy. I can understand what you're saying. I can. He's not as languid as Pogba, but actually he's not as graceful as Pogba could be when he was on his game. So I think it'd be an interesting signing. So I don't disagree. I kind of bit of an all-rounded answer there. Sorry, Dan.
But that's okay, Stu. But I haven't heard Tom's take on Rabiot before we wrap up the Rabiot debate and go to the main topic of the evening. Tom, what's your thoughts?
I deal with football
or nay?
No, definite nay. I deal with football agents, not mothers and fathers. Sorry, I'm not that. There's a personal conflict of interest. If your mother needs to negotiate your deals for you because you don't want to pay a sporting agent, I am concerned because a football agent would advise him what's best for his football career. Of course, they're going to look at a financial interest, but the football people, they've got the contacts to get you in any club in Europe. His mother does not have contacts with Manchester United, does not have contacts with all these other clubs around Europe and everything, and she's his agent, his own mother. At the end of the day, we've been on this ground before. We negotiated with her before, and she took the piss. And we're very blunt. She took the piss, far too much demands. Murto, he flew in there at, I think it was like 10:30 in the morning. He was out of there by 12 o'clock. That should tell you all you need to know. He didn't even bother to give her a full day. The money that they want for that player, for all the baggage that he brings, and I'm sorry, people can say that he's a winner and everything. Yeah, there's being a winner, but there's also being a professional. And I'm sorry, the way I look at it is, he's 28, 29 guys, right? He's had 4 months where his future's been in limbo, and his mother's not got him a deal anywhere. If he's not going to get a deal at Juventus, his mother's not got him a deal anywhere else. I struggle to believe why all these other top clubs are looking at him, and just how you guys have described it, him as a player, I agree with him as a player, but I have questions over his personal life in terms of who represents him, and I also have questions over his mentality, and his mentality based upon you've been at Juventus, I would say, had an easy ride there. You picked up a very hefty wage for a long, long time at Juventus. You left PSG, the club that put you on the map, gave you an opportunity, and you parred them off as if there was nothing. And PSG can pay money to keep players or sign players, guys. They can pay top wages. They didn't give that guy wages for one reason. And for me, I would, if you want this player that badly, I'll negotiate the deal for you. I'd go to his mother. Your son's 28 years old. You can have 200k a week. You sign 18 months. Prove to me why you should stay longer. Because you've not got any other options. But the best way that I can see it with his mother is, his son's sitting nowhere. He's probably in France, Milan, wherever. He's probably on holiday right now. He's not got a club. They're not really got any clubs that are interested in him, guys. And if it comes to the end of the window, I'll guarantee you that there'll probably be some club. There'll be a couple of clubs from the MLS, maybe a club from Saudi. Put a bit of money on the table, and just say that's it. That's all you're getting. We're not giving you stupid money, but that's all we're giving you. We're giving you We're giving you an offer. Other people don't give you nothing. But the fact of that these players are being pushed onto us, I'm not here for this anymore. This is the Glazer family regime of this football club, and Jarvis said it for what he said it for. It is an old regime signing where the agent or the players are pushed onto you. You don't push players onto this club anymore. It's done. Those days are done. If we want a player, we'll go for that player. And the fact that we could have signed him, guys, for 4 months or agreed something with him for 4 months and we haven't, tells me all that I need to know. I don't think we want him as badly as people make out. But listen, give him 200k a week, 18 months, prove something to me. If not, okay then, fuck off.
I really like what you just said there, Tom, because like that's the thing about it. He is a player that is a mixed bag. Mctominay is a mixed bag. So swapping a mixed bag for a mixed bag really doesn't make that much sense. Mainoo talked about his passing being neat. While Mainoo did that, I looked up some of his like stats that I just want to quickly, if I may, Jarvis, just mention. Sure. You know, he's actually got 2.44 progressive passes per 90 minutes, which puts him in the 86th percentile of midfielders in Europe. While that kind of looks good, there's other stuff that does not look good about Rabiot. So in terms of the rest of his game, he ranks poorly in terms of passes attempted, just 27th percentile. Pass completion puts him 45th percentile. Progressive passes, 35th percentile per 90, which is like a little bit like, oh, this guy, out of the things that you really want a midfielder to also be good at, like tackling and interceptions, he's like 42nd percentile in interceptions, 49th percentile in tackles. And the way we're trying to play, you know, like we want a midfielder that really can sort of, if they have to be asked to dribble a player, they're able to do that. And so Rabiot, like just looking at just like his stats, you just get a sense that he's somebody who excels at one thing, one skill set that may be good and can maybe confuse some people, but then these other important things that are not really like you know, shining. He played under Allegri and Maurizio Sarri, right? And in both occasions he had spurts where he's like, oh, this guy is good, but then from there he lacks consistency. So if Scott McTominay was French, he would be Rabiot. But the weird part about him,
I like that one.
Yeah, the weird part about this guy is also the fact that, you know, he's been to the Manchester City youth before. Obviously, he went into the PSG academy and you know, and now Juventus, and now obviously the stint with Juventus is done. So there is a player in there. If you can you know, discredit him, but there is a player in there. That's why he's gone to all these like big clubs, you know.
He's 28
Poppy,
though. Is that going to be there?
I just want to add, statistically, he's comparable with Joe Linton at the Newcastle. How he plays.
Yeah, but
So maybe give you a little bit of picture of what his attribute is.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Joe Linton, though, guys, is he was a striker, and I mean that because I don't ever recall really scoring that many goals. But Eddie Howe, and actually, Joe Linton's a great example, Pappy, of exactly what I was talking about. He's looking at where your favourite position is, but where are you better, or where can you adapt your game, or where can you become an asset to the team? And I think we'll all agree here, Joe Linton became a huge asset to the way that Eddie Howe wanted to play and did play at Newcastle. And when he was injured, Newcastle started to falter. So it's just an interesting little tidbit there.
Okay.
Can I just make this last point though, guys? I'm going to put this question to people in the chat anyway, right? Is this only consideration around Rabiot because he's for free? Because if he was at a club that we'd have to buy him for, would everybody be disinterested in him? There you go. And that just proves one point there. If he's for free, everybody's suddenly interested in him. Like when before we wanted him, I think he had 12 months, did he not, guys? So we could try and negotiate the clock down and get a decent price or whatever. Or I think he was actually run out of contract and then he re-signed with Juventus. I can't remember off the top of my head. But then all of a sudden now he's not got a club, and then we're all sitting here and he's on the open market and anybody can sign him at any given time. You've just got to make a phone call and negotiate terms and that's it. There's no club. If he had a club, would we be sitting here and saying, oh, let's go inside Adrian Rabiot? I don't think we would.
No.
Yeah. It's a great point, actually, a great point.
It's the free option.
Yeah, it's a free, but free isn't always.
It's always free, is it? Yeah. Especially with 200 grand a week if you got to fork that out. But it's a good point.
It's a good point. I just want to move to the main topic of the evening. So tonight the topic is we're 42 minutes into the show already, and we have the Q&A at the end. And Stu want to show us some brilliant football shoes. Can you give them a short teaser for 2 seconds? Shoes.
Well, crikey.
Take the laces off.
Oh, fucking hell. I've got a few here. These are what I wear throughout the season. So, and I've got some studs as well. So I'll go. I did it on a previous show, actually. But anyway, there you go. Just
people, stay tuned.
There will be ones I haven't used yet. So you probably guessed those because they were the shiny ones.
Mark comes in with Predator.
Those are they're a special. They're a kind of a new Soul Predator, which I had years and years ago. But anyway, we can.
Well, the main topic of tonight is the name of the show is "Fight for Your Right." It's about fierce competition for places in the starting 11, and this season or this summer we have seen us getting linked to a lot of players in a lot of key positions. We see that now we are linked to Mazraoui at right back. He will most likely compete against Dalot. We have Yoro versus Ligt, Mainoo versus, I would say, Zubimendi, Ugarte versus Casemiro, Amrabat, Collyer, Bruno versus Mount, Garnacho versus Sancho, and Rashford on the left. On the right, we have Antony versus Ahmad, Sancho, Garnacho, and up top we have Hojlund against Zirkzee. So there will be a lot of battles fighting for the best starting 11. And this will give Ten Hag this season a lot of options in how he can pick his team. He can pick his strongest 11 one week and his B team the next week, or he can mix it up and play a similar type of team each week. Not the best, but an average good team and win that way. So there's a lot of options. So I just want to hear your thoughts on this because first of all, how will the players react when there's actually competition for the places? Who want to go first? We can go with Poppy and have it say.
So that's actually the thing that I believe, like, Obviously there's a prediction, like as a speculation of how players will react, or how this person will react. We really don't know until we get there and see how they actually handle that pressure, because being a Manchester United player is not just a test on the pitch, it's a mentality test. You have to pass that, and you have to do well at that. So, and part of this mentality test is also not what the it's not just what the fans say about you, it's like what you actually do in terms of, like, making sure that you give the manager something to think about. When you're given a chance, you really have to show that I deserve to be the person that's on the left wing, so I really think, like, there will be some players that give the vibes that they will thrive under when you're given an opportunity to compete against somebody. But then there's some that might crumble. We've seen, like, Luke Shaw always is that guy when if you're in a relationship with somebody and then there's somebody else that's texting you and stuff, and then this person just starts showing that best. Luke Shaw is that guy. He needs you, is that basically that guy who needs that pressure, that, like, she's flirting with somebody else, or he's flirting, so he's unfortunately like somebody that, at the end of the day, obviously that's how you get the best out of Luke Shaw. Make sure you have a good deputy to, like, give him that competition. But in terms of, like, the matchups that you just read out, I really really want to see how Yoro and Ligt sort of, like, push each other to the next level. I want to see them as a center back pairing, but because of the purposes of this discussion, he said Yoro versus Ligt, and I was just like, well, that could be something interesting, because we know Ligt is more experienced and has been on, like, Champions League lights, has played under more intense matches, but Lenny Yoro, he has the ability to just get in there and never look back and own that one of the defensive positions. So I really want to see how each player pushes each other. A special shout out to Kobe Mainoo. I feel like he's somebody that, when ever since just looking at how he got that opportunity versus Everton last season, he claimed that position and he never looked back. So that he will thrive under competition and under having, like, some sort of, like, somebody sort of just, like, threatening to come in whenever he's not available. Who was you read out Bruno versus Mount? I think, was it Bruno versus Mount?
For example,
Yeah. I wouldn't want to touch all of them, and let others also chime in on the other ones. But the last pairing that I want to say something about is the Jadon Sancho versus Garnacho. We know Sancho is somebody that is, how would I refer to him? He's a very sensitive introvert. Now, I'm an introvert myself, believe it or not. I am somebody that's, like, very much just loves, I like being around people, but I like keeping to myself. So he's somebody that I feel like the mentality is not really where it needs to be. We all go through different things in life, through ups and downs. And when he hits a down in his life, I don't know if he'll be able to still give us what we need from a winger at Manchester United if we're trying to make the leap to the next stage, to the next phase, So I really feel like that competition will only bring the best out of Garnacho and not really necessarily, like, boost Sancho. He's playing a lot of like the preseason games and so forth.
Yeah.
But as soon as he's not selected, he might sulk. He might go on social media.
Yeah. Great point. I want to go to Stu now and hear your point, because there's several things we got to think of when it comes to this competition. And Ten Hag into all of this, we suddenly have a luxury problem: who to pick, how should he conduct his team, how should he pick his 11. Will players actually start competing internally? Will the level of trainings be better? Will they try to prove to Ten Hag that they deserve a place in the team? How will it play itself out?
Yeah, it's a question that we're asking, and it's actually a question we shouldn't be asking because take the mighty Tipton Town as an example. Our team environment from a overall perspective is great. You know, we're all friendly, etc., etc. But when we're training, I fucking hate every single one of the opposition that I'm playing against. Because I want to be the very best at all times. So when I'm looking around, and if there's 4 or 5 centre backs in my position, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, right, what's he doing that I'm not? What can he learn from me that I don't want him to learn? And you become almost very single-minded in the way that you go about playing your game, but you're still playing it to the very, very highest level. But you're holding things back at certain elements. So if you're marking a particularly aggressive forward, and sometimes we do play with aggressive forwards in training so that we're able to deal with those in match situations, you might just deal with them differently to what you'll do in a match situation. And this is to really make sure that you're up there alone and identified as undroppable, because that's all a footballer should be concerned about, is being undroppable. And then when Thursday night comes and you're in your briefing and then you're discussing the team for Saturday, or the manager is, I then become white as a fucking sheet until I'm picked. Until I see my name up there, I'm white as a fucking ghost. I'm shaking. I'm fucking horrible. I feel horrible. I feel sick. And, you know, I play regularly, you know, I've got the skipper's armband and I always play, but I never take my position for granted ever. Because the first time you do that, first time that little bit of complacency pops in, your game goes, oh, well, I'll be all right if I make that mistake because I'm going to play next week. Oh, I'll be fine if I don't make that 10-yard run because I'm going to play next week. If I don't make that 5-yard pass, I'll be fine. I'm going to play next week. You can't have that mentality. So when a new player comes through the door, you know, my first thought is, what the fuck's he doing here? I don't need him. We don't need him. You do, or you might do. But my mentality is, what the fuck are you doing here? You know, you're a centre half, bring it on, mate. I don't care. And I'll go at him, and I'll go at him, and I'll see what he's about. You know, if he's against me in training, I'll go at him all the time just to see what he's about. If he's in my team, I'll be looking at him, I'll be watching him. And this is, you know, and what I'm talking about, by the way, is nothing new at all. Nothing new at all. It's just one of those things. No one's undroppable. No, absolutely, nobody is undroppable. And that's how I go about it. It's not everybody's way of doing it, but I always find that if it's not, I find that quite a weak mentality in other players. And you know, people always say, you look around the dressing room, you look around and you see winners, etc. You just look into their eyes. As soon as they walk through the door, are they dicking about? Are they joking? Or are they taking it a little bit seriously? They're a little bit quiet, getting on with their routine. And you notice all these things. You really do. You notice. And you want somebody who just comes in, puts his bag down, gets on with his routine, because you know he's kind of focused on what he wants to do. And come Saturday afternoon, you know, when we're in that dressing room, 15 minutes to go before the whistle, the manager's giving you the last few bits of instructions or whatever, you're all focused. You're quiet. You're listening. You're focused. You stand up. You do your hoorah, whatever it is people do, and then you move out to the pitch. But the first time you let that slip, you let that fucking mask of aggression slip, you're fucked. You're absolutely fucked. I promise, you know. Oh, thank you, babe. Thank you. You're fucked. I promise, you know. You've been a player, Jarvis. You know yourself. If you can't give it for 100% of the time, you're gonna struggle in any type of football.
And basically you have to deserve a place in the starting 11 all the time. And if you don't perform at the level you need as needed, then you're out. And this is Ten Hag's luxury. If we get the signings we want this season, I think he will be able to pick and choose for once. Okay, I was going to go with the next question to Tom, but he's out for a couple of minutes, so we have to go back to Bobby, Botswana, Papi. So,
Let's go.
what kind of players do you think will cave under pressure and don't take this competition good? You know, we have players like Dalot. I'm not sure about because he's been competing it out with Wan-Bissaka now the last couple of seasons. It's been a little bit on and off and on and off. So, for example, with a player like him, what can you expect?
I disagree. I feel like Dalot deep down knows that he's number one, and he's somebody that gives his all, knowing that he's number one on the selection. Like, it's really, really, really rare. Like, I just feel like Dalot knows that he's number one, and Wan-Bissaka will probably be called in for a specific moment.
But what if Mazraoui comes in?
So if Mazraoui comes in,
because he's a Ten Hag pupil.
Sure.
But Ajax.
I don't expect a caving in or a drop in mentality from Dalot. Honestly, I just feel like he would actually even, maybe even give 5% more if he has 5% more, because I feel like he's somebody that really usually, for most cases, leaves his best. Like he leaves his blood, sweat, and tears on the pitch, So for Dalot, I feel like he would get the same from him. There's moments where he makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. That's just part and parcel of it, of a game. Yeah. But I see more of an elevation. If anything, like Mazraoui coming in will help Dalot like recharge, and Dalot deep down is going to know that he's number one, but he's not going to take it for granted. That is just my prediction on him. If we go to somebody like, say, Bruno, who is the matchup for Bruno again? You said.
Well, now at the moment we have. It depends how we want to play Bruno. We want to play him in the 10 or the false 9. It could be Zirkzee. It could be Mason Mount.
Bruno has very similar, for me, very similar mentality to Dalot. I feel like he's also somebody that, like, regardless of who's around, he's just going to give his all. And honestly, I don't see him really, unless he has a really, really, really serious dip in form. Like, I don't see somebody like Mount putting Bruno on the bench. Bruno puts himself on the bench, if you get what I'm saying.
So, that's his mentality.
Yeah, the thing that for me, the matchup that's really intriguing, gents, is Hojlund and Zirkzee. I don't know much about Zirkzee, but from what I've been learning about him, I also feel like he has an elite mentality. But he might actually be able to even push Hojlund to, even dig deeper. And I think like that little, that goal that he scored versus Arsenal, it's a preseason game, but it was sort of like something of Hojlund is coming into his own. It was a typical, like, striker who's ready to fight for his position. The way he was fending off that Arsenal defender to sort of just make sure that he is protecting this ball and he's going to score this ball. That's the type of, like, output that happens from healthy competition. So I'm curious what that is going to mean for Zirkzee. Does this mean that Zirkzee is going to just sort of like accept that he's second fiddle, or is he also going to dig deep? But that part for me is a question mark and remains to be seen. So that is like the matchup that I'm more excited about. But to go back to how we started the question, I think Dalot is going to be consistent and still give the best.
Could he maybe just step it up a notch and be even better?
I just feel like he's doing his best, and he's all, Mazraoui like has the whatever Carabao Cup games, the early stages of FA Cup. Like, maybe Mazraoui will have his opportunity to really show what he can do then. And if he ends up like building better chemistry, say with like, say, Antony, that I don't really see it. But I mean, ultimately, we win as Manchester United, right? If
we do
each other. So yeah, but honestly, to go back to that, I feel like Dalot is going to be the same consistent, like give his all, blood, sweat, and tears on the pitch type of player, you know.
I know, and interesting. You're saying the matchup with players, and that's something I didn't even think of when I made this topic, because we have a lot of players that actually can match up in a better way. Even though if Dalot is a better player, his matchup with Mazraoui and Antony will have a better matchup. Maybe we don't know. So that could be an element in the debate. We have in central midfield, we have probably signing Ugarte. There's rumors about a loan deal with an obligation to buy from next season, an obligation. So it's basically a signing. And in the DM, we have Casemiro. Most likely Amrabat is coming in back again, and Toby Collyer. Who will you see win that fight, Stu? Who can be the DM?
Couple of things. If Ugarte comes in, Ugarte starts for me, and there's a good reason for this. And I'm going to kind of have to go off topic a little bit and talk about it in a more generalised way. And it might help Pappy with his Zirkzee issues, because I kind of see where he's coming from on that. But I would say if we are successful in what we're able to buy in the positions that we want to buy, then I think it gives Ten Hag a real good, a more flexible squad than we've ever had before. So much so that he's been quite static for 2 years, hasn't he? In the way that he's been playing, and for me, it's never ever worked. So I think, look, if we bring in, and this might help, if we bring in Ligt, then I can see a more fluid system, and I would look at a three at the back, and I would play Yoro in the middle, Ligt on the right, Martinez on the left. I'd do that for a simple reason, and this is why I'd have Ugarte here. Ugarte is very good at winning the ball, stopping the attacks, so holding on to possession. Yoro is excellent by bringing the ball out of defence. He can carry the ball out of defence. What you have with Ugarte is an ability to be able to hold Yoro's position. Okay, and hold the midfield position at the same time. So if needs be, if we get an overturn, a foot of ball up at the top end, then and Yoro's out of position slightly, Ugarte switches, and vice versa. Okay, so that's one of Ugarte's biggest strengths. People won't like it. He's not there for that, but actually he is, because the way that Ten Hag wants to play out from the back. Now, this is interesting what Mark said, because I don't know much about Mazraoui at all, Mazraoui, whatever you want to call him. So if you can, Mazraoui. So if you can play on the left side, that's perfect, because we have got an issue at left wing back potentially with Luke Shaw and Malacia. Unless we bring regularly on back, we've got a gap there. So if there is an option there for either Antony maybe to play left wing back, Mazraoui if he doesn't play on right wing back, because I think Dalot's got positional issues. I've said it before, Pappy, and I believe his positional issues are terrible in and around our 18 yards box. So possession is quite bad. So that would allow maybe Dalot, Mazraoui to play right and left. And then you've got a brilliant middle three of Ugarte, who's got the strength. You've got Mainoo, who's got the guile, and then you've got Bruno's ability. That would leave two up top, and that would be my man Zirkzee and Hojlund. Now, if I'm Zirkzee coming into Manchester United right now, I'm thinking to myself, I ain't competing with Hojlund. No chance. I'm going to befriend him. I'm going to say to him, I want to work. When the guys are finished, I want to work on a pairing. How can me and you get the best out of each other to make sure that we are getting 35, 36, 37 games a season? And I'm scoring 20 goals. You scored 16. This is a conversation I'm having with him. You scored 16 goals in all competitions last season, and you hardly got any service. Okay. The way that Rude is going to teach us to play the 12-yard box, the 6-yard area, you know, the way I'll cut across near post, I want you cut in and around me, and vice versa. The way that we can split the two centre halves that will allow Bruno more space in the middle. I would be having all these conversations from a selfish point of view, by the way. Let's be clear about this with Hojlund, because I'd need him on side. because I don't want to be competing against him. That's not what I'm there for. I want to say to the gaffer, if you think playing two up top is better for this particular team, we're ready. We've been working on this, through closed doors or whatever. We're ready to go. If he's very stubborn and he's single-minded, then what do you do potentially with Martinez? Because Pappy made a great point. I'd like to see Yoro and Ligt together.
Yeah.
Or if Branthwaite comes in, for example, we don't get Ligt, we get Branthwaite. So the whole idea of squad building is to be able to utilize the squad better and be able to play something different. Okay, something completely different that we did against City, in the final part of the season, where we were brilliant for the first half at the Etihad. Yes, we ended up losing 3-1. We were the better team in the first half. We were better in the cup, in the FA Cup final. We played slightly different. So by getting these types of profiles of players, going into training every day and working on a variety of different kind of ways of playing. I'm not going to talk about systems, but ways of playing, interaction, intertwining players. So if Ugarte is injured, Casemiro can come in. So your points are relevant, Jarvis. What you're asking is relevant. If Bruno doesn't make it, maybe Mount can come in, or vice versa. Mount might unsert Bruno this year. Who knows? None of us know. We don't know. Yeah. But what the question I'm going to get asked, and I can see Pappy's probably already talking about it. What happens to Rashford and what happens to Garnacho? You're absolutely right, fella. You're absolutely right. But isn't this what football at the elite level's about, though?
It is. But the thing is, you make a brilliant point, and for me, I just want to say, I agree 100% with what you're saying, and this is what football is about. But I have some concerns, and I would say, with a big competition for the places, we have a couple of players. I will mention 3 names: Casemiro, Luke Shaw, and Marcus Rashford, because some players needs to play themselves through a bad spell and into form. How will that play itself out? Tom, you can have this one. Dom? Okay. Back to Stu.
Just a quickie on this, and I'll let Pappy come back in on that one. It's a brilliant question, actually, Jarvis. And the only way you can players play themselves in is by doing it themselves. I'm sorry, I hear all the time that a coach makes a player better. A coach is there to guide you and advise. The only person who can make control of the ball better is you. Your fucking coach can't do it unless he's tied to your legs somehow. You're the only one that can do it. And this is what I was talking about earlier, about looking around and thinking about, how am I going to make the best? How can I be the very, very best version of Stu, or the very best version of Pappy, Tom, or Jarvis when we're playing in matches? What am I doing that sets myself apart? And that's how you can only take care of your own game, and you're the only one that can do it. Now, let me tell you something about Rashford. You're going to see a twofold Rashford this season. He's got the benefit of working with our good old mate, Ruud van Nistelrooy. I mean, fuck me. You're Zirkzee, Hojlund in particular. Pappy spoke about the goal. Pappy, how many times? Not many. But did you see the Van Nistelrooy shrug him off? Yes. Cutting on the diagonal, which I talk about all the time, and then slide the ball in and then just peel away like that. You learn a lot from somebody whose eyes were the best in the business when it came to centre forward play. And I think you're going to see Rashford change his game slightly, not to become an out and out 9, but to be a better 9 when Hojlund's injured, if Zirkzee gets injured, or even play behind them 2 if Mount and Bruno were injured. And Jesus Christ, can you imagine going into work every day and, Ruud, what do? I want you to do this. I want you to look at over his shoulder and then turn the opposite way. So I want you to flummox the defender. I want you to grab hold of his fucking nuts at this time. And then, but more importantly, I want you to look at the feet of the crosser. Why am I doing that? Why am I looking? Because as soon as he arches back to kick that ball, then you move. This, you're going to learn all of this. You're going to learn all this great stuff from fucking my favourite striker is Jarvis knows Pappy. You know, at Manchester, I think he's brilliant. And if you're Rashford and you've got yourself fit and you've got yourself trim and you're injury free and you've got your brain going, fuck me, you can't help but get excited.
Stu, it's exactly like we got a little slice of that when I think we were playing, was it, I can't remember which preseason game, it must have been Rangers, when I saw, or was it Rosenborg, because I think Rashford had picked up a knock for the Rangers games. So like Ruud van Nistelrooy was on the touchline talking with Rashford, and you could see how he was taking in the instructions, and you were actually, like, for me, that's when I saw that, oh, this is actually going to be probably Rashford's redemption season. Like, he's a purple patch. He's somebody, you know, as one of Mick's favorite clips. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe, you know, and like Rashford, we're going to see a different character. The thing that you mentioned earlier on, Stu, made me remember that there was all these like information reports coming out that the main thing that Ruud van Nistelrooy is working on is patterns of play, telepathic understanding of where your teammate needs to be when you receive the ball in a certain zone, in a certain area of the pitch. Time and time again last season, we saw our attacks become so predictable because we saw our players, somebody on the ball, looking at not only just the defenders that are trying to get the ball from him, but looking at like, oh, where's my fellow colleague is gonna go. But we want these moments to sort of just be just natural, seamless. Like, I don't need to say, all right, Stu, cut in. You already know that anytime I receive the ball in this area, that Stu has to be doing the diagonal run, or he's expecting the ball in the near post. That's how you actually get better and build fluidity as an attacking force. So we need that cohesion. We need that. And I think, going back to Jarvis's question, Rashford is gonna find that form as soon as like he manages to understand the patterns that Ruud van Nistelrooy is trying to build.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think we will be worrying about that. We will actually be seeing a lot more goal contribution from Rashford than last season. I'll say it on record boldly, you know, and say that he is going to get a GA that is going to surprise us. That is not going to be not last season at all. It's going to be so much better, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I have to say I disagree when it comes to this with Rashford. I think he's carrying an injury and he's never really healed, and I think he's lost a yard of pace. I think he will struggle to come back to previous levels, and for me, I think it's time to sell if we had the options. But I might be wrong. I'm not hating on Rashford. I would love for him to score 30 goals for Man United because that's the best for the club. But the thing is, I don't think he has it in him anymore. You never see him sprint like he did a couple of years ago at full pace. He's always a little bit holding a little bit back. So for me, I think he has lost his edge in football, and he's struggling, trying to evolve his dribbling, trying to evolve his shooting, trying to get the dink and the drop on the ball when he trying different things just to come back. But I think he still will struggle because he lost a yard of pace, and this is Rashford's edge when it comes to football. So that's just my opinion, but I might be wrong. I might be right.
You're right, and I agree with you. I think Mark's right. I think ultimately he's best off coming off the bench at the moment. I think Zirkzee and Hojlund are a much better pairing for us. But this is where the elite players and the players with the brains, they tweak their games. You know, he needs to tweak his game. Ryan Giggs was a master at it. Paul Scholes was a master at tweaking his game. Not so much Roy Keane, which is really interesting. He never really tweaked. He kept on playing the same way. Eric Cantona did, but Eric Cantona was at a different level. But there are players that need to tweak the game. He needs to tweak his game a lot better. You're absolutely right. He's lost that yard of pace, so he's got to decide where to position himself when the transitions come in his way. He's got to make that decision on which segment of the pitch I'm best served, because I ain't got the pace to get round Carl Walker anymore. So do I need to be tighter up against him and muscle him off it if I can muscle him off it? So those are decisions he's going to make. And again, that's down to him.
Do you think maybe it's because he bulked up, because he's much heavier now, especially in his upper body, than he was a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I think he. If I'm being honest with you, I think he was injured. But I think he fell out of love with the game of football. Quite frankly, for the last 2-3 years, I don't think he's shown any bit of interest in it or willingness to enjoy football again. But again, that's down to him to deal with it. You know, it's easy for us to say. If we're in his position, we'd be, every day I'd go in an hour early and do the gym, so I'm ready for training. Yeah. I'd be out there for 2 hours after. But when you've done it maybe for 15 years, you might not want to do that. I don't know. But Ronaldo is only playing. Pepe is only playing, in their 40s. Pepe's 41/42, because he's still remained that focus. He's had that focus. So when he gets up in the morning, he goes into his ice bath, he gets straight to training. He has his breakfast, he's out there warming up or doing his warm-up on the bike or whatever, ready for training, ice bath after, etc., 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 etc. Every day, right foods, right drinks. Some of them, and I'm, look, I don't have millions of pounds in the bank, so I wouldn't know. But, at the end of the day, right, there are certain areas, there are certain players, and Memphis Depay was one of them, that would go home at training, get into his Rolls Royce and fuck off down to Gucci. Well, how are you going to, how's your craft going to grow? How are you going to work on being the very best you can be? I don't know, Jarvis. So, you could well be right about Rashford. You really could. Yeah,
the thing is, I don't know, but he's a conundrum in a lot of ways, because he has a massive talent.
Yeah,
massive talent, and for me, just standing on the looking from the outside, it just feels like he doesn't care anymore, in a way, in a lot of how he is, his body language and stuff like that. And this is a big problem. But I don't know, maybe he's struggling just to figure out what to do.
I want to offer this. I know there's some people in the chat that are like, no, rubbish puppy. I do not want to hear that. I don't want to, I hear it. We have a right to different opinions, but something that might inform your opinion on him right now, especially about what we're talking about, his love for the game. About an hour ago, Fabrizio Romano said, it quoted Marcus Rashford. He said in an interview, right, with MUTV, that he said these words: "I still have dreams of winning the big trophies, the Premier League and Champions League with Man United. Hopefully, we can get that done." This is a player, guys. This is a player that still wants to do well with Man United, and I know, maybe his body language last season was not supporting that. But let's remember that last season, during the break, he did not have as much rest as he normally does because of the Qatar World Cup, and all that sort of accumulated the match so much that this summer he had time to reset and recharge, and we're going to see a rejuvenated Marcus Rashford. And if he comes in and starts bagging goals, I will be collecting the apology receipts from
I'm just saying he just changed his PR agency in the last couple of months. So this is
Mark beat me to it. So Mark's quotes ideal, talks cheap, get on with it. I like that. The thing is, you've opened yourself up now to a lot of criticism if you don't perform, and I like it. I like the fact that. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but no one has the answer for this. Only time will tell, and next season Rashford really have to perform. If not, I think his time is up at Man United, and there's no more excuses. Yeah, we have some breaking news from.
Is it good breaking news?
Yeah, we have signed a new player.
Oh, we've done it, have we? All right.
Obi Martin. Here we go from Fabrizio Romano.
Wow.
This youngster, he scored, I would say, 40 goals, was it, for the Arsenal Academy for last season? 10 goals against Liverpool. Massive talent, and I think it will be a brilliant addition to the academy this year. But in the years to come, maybe we'll see more of him. I think it's too soon. He's 16, or is he 17 yet? He's quite skinny, but he's tall.
He's tall, isn't he? He's quite strong, apparently. Good finisher by all accounts. So it's confirmed, is it?
It's confirmed. Here we go from Fabrizio Romano. Poppy, do you have expectations for this Obi Martin kid?
Yes. I every now and then there is a player that comes in and looks like he's in a trajectory to be a freak of nature. And the last player that we saw obviously had put up numbers like these when he was with younger players was Manchester City's very own, the cyborg. I won't say his name, but like this guy, he's coming in and showing that he's got a lot of potential. He's still a kid. He's still 16, 16 years of age. So I don't want to put too much expectations on him because there's a lot of wonder kids. How many times have you heard this club signs a wonder kid and then you end up wondering about the kid?
Exactly, that's right. Wondering, yeah, you end up wondering rather than. I've never been a fan of that, Pappy. What a wonder goal! Wonder goal! Wonder goal! Right, okay. Wonder kids. Oh, okay.
Right. But you certainly cannot ignore the numbers that he's put in, and I think like I remember looking at it a few weeks ago, it was something like 30 plus goals. Like the amount of matches that he had played, like it was almost like two goals per match, 2+ goals per match. That means he knows how to find the net. It's a really good steal for Man United. It shows that we're building for the future as well, so I'm really, really happy with it, and I'm really wish him the best. And he chose the right club. Leave Arsenal and the Arsenal DNA alone. Come to Man United. We are building something special here. You can be a part of the future. So big shout out to our star boy Cheeto, Obi Martin.
Obi Martin. But I have to say, personally, I'm a little bit skeptical for this kid. He's very physical, and when you're 16 and play with 16 years old and 17 years old, if you have an edge on physicality at that age, it means a lot. But when he plays,
just think about where you're going now, Jarvis. Big Rude's doing that for you. You come with me, son. You come with me. Let me put my arm around you, kid. This is what you're going to do now.
Yeah,
learn. Give him your old VHS tapes, Rude. Show him what a proper striker is.
What old VHS tapes?
You'll be like, what's a VHS?
I'm sorry, yeah, you guys are going. What's a VHS tape? Sorry, a DVD player or whatever it is. Fucking
that's even old, too.
I could have said Betamax. You'd have been going, fucking what? Betamax? What the fuck's that?
If you're old enough, you probably had a VHS cassette hidden under your bed.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jarvis. And a sock. Yeah, we know.
Are you saying the one that says the title, but the contents of the VHS tape is something different from the title? All right, let's leave it there.
Oh, dear.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's great that we're signing young players, and I think there will be more to come. As someone in the chat mentioned, Ten Hags Master Plan. We have a vision. We want to build for the future, and this is the future. We want to bring in the best, youngest talents, and I think we have just seen the beginning. I think this season we will see players like Ethan Wheatley, Toby Collyer, Amas, Maxi, Odiele, Will Fish. They will get their chances. We will play a lot of games, 17 games in total if we go all the way to the final in the Europa League, 38 games in the league, 6-7 games in the League Cup, same in the FA Cup. There will be plenty of chances for these kids to get a chance if they want. And I think the future is fantastic. I don't know where Tom went away.
He said he was having problems this week, didn't he? Bless him. Vicky's asked a question. You might know this, Jarvis, about FFP. She was wondering about can we use all of them? I think we can with Rashford, can't we? He becomes FFP.
Yeah, he's 100%. 100%. He's a homegrown academy player. Same with Mctominay. Yeah. Great business for the club when it comes to the FFP and financial fair play. This is the players we need to sell at the moment because we are in such of a crisis when it comes to the financials. And another topic now that I've seen a lot of other channels discussing, especially Mr. Goldbridge. You know him?
Who's he? Never heard of him.
No,
Who's that?
well, we had a little
Yeah.
channel called the United States.
Who's
Yeah.
he? Go on.
Before you get on Mr. Goldfish, I just wanted to Vicky's comment is actually the reason why for me I'm hopeful that I'm backing Rashford this coming season so that like we can get to sell him when the stock is really high.
Really
Because
high.
right now there's not a
Yeah.
lot of suitors because part of it is just because we know his stock is at the lowest it's ever been, honestly. And it's a win-win for us if he gets off of a flying start and then from there, like we know deep down the kind of player that he is. We just need to make sure that we make money because it's pure profit. He's a carrot that grew in our backyard. So we need to just put it in the market, you know, when the carrot prices are high. That's
Brilliant.
all. Anyway,
Brilliant.
all right. But Jarvis, on to the
Yeah.
gold
Who
conversation.
watches Gold Flat? Well,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't want to call any names. You know, everybody's entitled for an opinion. Sometimes I watch Mr.
Brilliant.
Goldbridge, and now the topic is he's skeptical about getting rid of players. We have the usual suspects, especially Maguire, Lindelof. Now we're struggling to sell Wan-Bissaka. Hopefully he goes, so we free up more money and more wages. But we are back to the same thing that we see every transfer window. We buy a couple of players and then everything stops. I read that Maguire is happy here. He wants to stay with the club. Same with Christian Eriksen. And for me, we have players coming in or staying with no ambitions. They're just happy to stay at the club. How can we solve this problem? Is there a way to hard hand them, like shove them out of the club, or can we just sit there and accept it and let them run down their contract? Stu?
Well, I actually think that for the first time in a while, we've actually seen a club act responsibly, and that would be Lille and Lenny Yoro. I'm absolutely convinced the chairman said to his entourage, "We've had this bid from Manchester United, and you're going. We are selling you." And that is it. Because back in the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s, you'd have been dragged in the office, or you'd be dragged into, if you're out for dinner, you'd be dragged into Ferguson's car and say, we've taken the bid for 10 million from Inter Milan. You need to make the arrangements. You're going. We sold you. Football needs to get back to that. Football cannot continue down this path of agents crying all the time. So you've got two options. You either take that angle, or you say to Christian Eriksen, you've got 1 year left on your contract. Here's our cancellation contract offer for you. You're now a free agent with £5 million in your pocket. Off you go. Because irrespective, you are going to pay him the money. Irrespective. If he stays, you're paying him. So why don't you do a deal with him to pay him off? Now, Formula One don't piss about. Daniel Ricciardo was put on a hiatus for 12 months, fully paid. They just paid his contract off. They just carried on paying him because they knew they were going to have to pay him whatever. And they made that decision to do it. And we need, as a club, to do something very, very similar. Okay. We need to turn around and look at these contracts, who's in the final year of his contract, and say, I'm sorry, we've got to move on. We have to move on without you. And it doesn't matter who it is. I'm not going to actually pick out names on this occasion because I don't think we need to, because I think we all know who they are. And I think if you just do something as ruthless as that, that's going to send a wonderful message to everybody within the club. That is, whoever you may be, whatever contract you are on, we decide what happens to you. You no longer dictate to Manchester United what you're going to do. Oh, and by the way, other clubs, other players, this is what you're walking into. So if you come into Manchester United, you now operate under our rules. I'm sick of the agents. The agents, Fergie spoke about this back in 2010, or even earlier, actually.
Yeah,
earlier. When it was particularly Paul Pogba's agent. He was fuming with him. I can't remember the actual year, so forgive me, guys. Somebody might be able to tell us in the VAR room. But he made that point about how difficult Mina Raiola, God rest his So it was to deal with, and other agents had terrible Kirjarabshin back in the day with Tevez and Mascherano, that these agents were terrible, and he made that point. And so now you've got to turn around and say, you got to draw that line in the sand and say, look, I'm sorry. We don't need you. We've got to move on as a club. We have to. Thank you, but you're gone. And that is it. And there's no comeback from it. And if they don't do that, and we haven't done that for the last 10 years, and you've seen that, as Pappy said, McSauce has been with us, Mctominay has been with us, Maguire, Lindelof. Lindelof's been with us, what, 8 years, 7 years?
Yeah, it was signed by Mourinho.
I've lost count how long he's been. He's been with us. Luke Shaw has somehow managed to survive. I get it, brilliant talent, but injured for 6 months of the season all the time, and we know why. We know why he's injured. Mason Mounts, he may come good this season, but fuck me, I'd have dragged him in and said, "Look, pal, you can't have a season like that again, mate, because you're gone. You're out the door. You're gone. You can't keep doing this because you're just blocking the path." And all I am asking and would say, and if I was in the board, you've got to get ruthless again. Eriksen's a great player on his day. We know all this. He looks very, very fit, does Christian Eriksen. So does Casemiro. They look very fit, very neat and very tidy in their appearance. But they're going to be bit part players this year. Casemiro's on 300,000 a week as a bit part player. Do we want that? Move him on for 20 million. Somebody will take him for 20 million quid. You're going to lose the money, but you still got to pay him. You still have to pay him. So, look at again, I'll go back to Smith Rowe. Has hardly kicked a ball for 2 seasons, but yet Fulham have forked out 30 million quid for him. 30 million quid. You got to love it. I do. I think it's brilliant business by Arsenal. I'll doff my cap to Edu yet again. Sancho's, another one. He's on 250, 300 grand a week. Sorry. You've got to go. You can free up so much money by being ruthless, but it's a pipe dream. But it won't happen. So I don't know why I bothered talking about it. It won't happen.
Well, we have the financial issues that holding us back when it comes to this. I agree 100% with what you're saying, Stu, and I agree so wholeheartedly at what you said about Mason Mount. Bring him in, tell him, we won't accept another season like this. It's up to you to keep yourself fit. If you get injured and you will be out for half of the season, we can't have you on board anymore, and we will try to sell you and terminate your contract or whatever to get you out, because this club is moving forward with or without you.
Look, sorry, and I'll be very, very brief, but we've just signed this new 16-year-old kid. His dream will be to walk out for the first Premier League match in the new stadium. That will be his dream, and that's how it should be. That's your goal. That's your focus. We're building a stadium. It's going to be 3 years. I want you in the first team in 3 years' time. That's something to get hold of. Mason Mount, will you do me a favour? Will you at least give us 10 games, maybe 30 games before you actually get to the new stadium? We don't want Mason Mount walking out in the new stadium. We don't want Lindelof walking out in that new stadium. Casemiro, Eriksen. With all due respect to these players, we don't need that. We need somebody else, whoever it may. We need Pappy walking out there because it's different. It's a different body. It's a different pairs of eyes. A young Jarvis with his long locks, flowing locks, walking out there, because it's different. Mark, this morning I was watching Mark's show. He was absolutely on fire this morning. He was brilliant this morning. That energy out on that pitch for us in the new stadium would be exactly what we need. You can't... Casemiro, if I'm him, I'm saying to my agent, just get me to Saudi Arabia. I'm going to retire. Eriksen, I'll go into Miami. I'll go out to America and I'll retire there. Lindelof, Italy, Sweden, Turkey, I'll go and retire there. Mctominay, do you know what? I could get into Palace's side and make a difference. I could get in West Ham, I could make a difference. I could go to Fulham, I could make a difference. This is what I will be doing. Sancho, fucking hell, Paris. Go on then. It's just me.
You
You have a
Explain.
point there. I really feel like PSG would benefit from a winger like Sancho. If you've been sort of observing what Luis Enrique has been trying to do, it's clear that he wants his wingers to keep the ball circulating, and they had the identity, or they were using Mbappe's pace and exploiting it, putting the ball behind the opposition's defensive line. But right now there's a little bit of like shift and evolution in identity that he's trying to do. So I really feel like somebody like Sancho could actually go in there and be a great face for PSG. They need also some pull, and
Yeah.
Sancho, it will bring those eyes to League 1. It's just a match that is almost made in heaven, that he should just go and enjoy life. Sancho seems like the type of player that benefits from having like a lot of time on the ball, and League 1 is perfect for that. From the players that you want to clear out, Stu, I really am on board with everybody you mentioned, but then we also have to look at the fact that there are some players, even though some of their contracts are expiring next year this time, there is players that we have a year option to extend, right?
Which would get us money. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Which would get us money. And the main thing right now, I feel like financially, the club has to sort of be making the decision based on, do we want to see this particular player walk for free and we don't get zero from him? Or do we want to try and sell him now while we still can get a little bit of buck from that declining value to Manchester United? Those players that do not have a club 1-year extension is Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, Hannibal Mejbri, Christian Eriksen, Johnny Evans, and Tom Heaton. Now we know Tom Heaton, we love Tom Heaton and Johnny Evans, so maybe let's leave them out of this conversation. But as far as Hannibal goes, I think we've tried it and it just hasn't really worked out. He just hasn't put his claim, like it's the competition question that you were asking earlier on, Jarvis.
Yeah.
He hasn't really asserted himself to be like, hey, we're in trouble if we don't pick Hannibal in our starting lineup. So unfortunately, you're just not good enough for Manchester United. You can be,
correct,
as we're saying, go replace Andres Pereira, is rumored to be potentially going to Chelsea. Go to Fulham. Hannibal. You can be the Andres Pereira of Fulham and flourish.
Yeah, and Pereira, it's something like, is it about 36, 37, 38 million? I heard. It's a big amount of money. I mean, but he's a great example of somebody who's well, I'm not going to make it here. Mm-hmm. I'll go somewhere else, and I've made it as a player now. It can be done. Getting to Manchester United is obviously everybody's dream, actually. But as you quite rightly said, Pappy, you're just not good enough. Let's just move on. Just move on. You will have Manchester United forever on your CV. Nobody can say that about you. You were at Manchester United, but now it's time to move on. And I just would like some of those to move on, but it's not always the case, is it?
Yeah.
Stu and Poppy and Tom. Tom is back. We have
is he back?
Hey. Is coming up. Get your questions in, people. Whatever you have questions to Stu, what kind of football shoes, boots do we wear when training or when playing matches, or what kind of aftershave do Poppy use, or I don't know, whatever you want to ask.
You can ask us anything.
So I will put Stu in the main seat.
Oh, I'm in the driving seat. What?
And
I better be more professional now.
Now you got to shape up. And now I will play the jingle.
You don't have to answer the question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Right. Well, thank you, Jarvis, Pappy, and Tom. As always, when Tom and Pappy join us, you get a high caliber of football knowledge, and then you get Jarvis and myself, which is way below. And we have to bow down. to the two demigods of MUFC Realist TV, alongside Mark and, of course, the boss, that is Mick Ruby. So thank you, everybody in the VAR room. You've been absolutely tremendous, as always. So it's Q&A time. Q&A time. So my first question is to Jarvis. How is your golfing handicap?
Oh, it's getting better now. I've just been playing actively for, I would say, 5 weeks now. So
Yeah.
my handicap is 35.
It's tremendous.
You start on 55 and you play yourself down. And if you go down to 0, you play every course on par.
On par. Yeah.
So I'm quite happy. 35, that's decent.
That is tremendous. Mine would probably be about 135. So I would hack it. The only thing I do like about golf is that you can put a beer in the back of your trousers as you're doing whatever you're doing with it. So
why do you think I enjoy golfing?
Why not? Why not? It's too much like hard work for me. Fellas, a Q&A time. Let's start with, the legend that is Rashmano. And we kind of... I'll let Jarvis finish this one off because Pappy and Tom have both covered McAverage, McSauce, whatever you want to call him. Oh, look at that.
That's me last week, Jarvis. I'm getting ready.
Wow, looking good. Pappy, white shoes. You know what white shoes means in golfing?
What?
Then you are on 0. Then you're on par.
Whoa.
You have to be on par to play with white shoes. It's a big no-no if you go with white shoes.
Pappy, looking the part. Now he's been called out by Jarvis.
I was at the driving range with Vicky,
Yeah, I'm not any range, unfortunately. Rashmano has asked the question: would McAverage be a squad player for any of the top 4 last season? Jarvis, I'll give that to you because
the simple question is no. It's not good enough. No. You wouldn't have a chance at Manchester City, Liverpool, or what is it? Aston Villa? It's in top 4 now.
It'd be Villa. Yeah,
and Arsenal. Yeah. No, you wouldn't stand a chance. Maybe at the team like Fulham or Brighton.
I think it'd be a great fit for Fulham. I do, and Crystal Palace. And probably West Ham. Be a great fit for either of those. Short and sweet answer, but I think it was a short and sweet answer, that one, wasn't it? Pappy, welcome to Q&A. Hope you'll be here for many more to come. Not quite as the football power hour on a Friday, but it's getting there. It is getting there. Again, we've kind of answered this. Sam is that kid from Arsenal coming to United? In the last 10 minutes, it's just been announced that he is. But Pappy, over to you.
Yes, Sam, it is true. It is indeed a reality that Chido Obi Martin is now a Manchester United player. He has seen the light. He has seen that he has to support a club with a winning mentality, a club that does not pride itself on the top 4 trophy, and it's really exciting times for us, Sam. And also, I really hope that this kid lives up to his potential, because we have heard of lots of players with potential that don't end up reaching there. So the main thing is he has to be building his mentality. He has to also build his body shape, because he's still a young kid. Still, his bones need to develop, and he looks like the goal scoring machine. So Sam, I am excited. I am thrilled. I'm so waiting for this kid to make his way into our under 8. Like, he just has to make his way up the ranks, and it's going to be exciting times for Manchester United in the future.
No, I agree. Sam, I hope that... Oh, go on. Yeah.
Before we move on to the next question, I just want to add some breaking news from Rashmano.
Yes.
I haven't seen anything about this, but here it is. It's from a Turkish journalist called Emre Kaplan. It's in Turkish. He has over 200,000 followers on Twitter. But I will show you this translation in Google Translate. I don't know if you can read it, but it says Scott Mctominay. He recently said yes to a Galatasaray for an annual fee of 5.5 million euros. negotiation with Manchester United have been ongoing for a long time. One of the most decisive points here is Erik Ten Hag's decision. So there's reports from Turkey that the Mctominay actually is signing a deal with Galatasaray, at least personal terms. So we might be.
Okay, well, that's
the Q&A.
We may well be happy. Sam, I hope that's answered your question. And Pappy's even giving me a smile after that. So there you go. It's always good to see him smile, isn't he? He's always happy.
Oh, I try.
Scott the Wheels asked me a quick question. Would I swap Xavi Simons for Bruno if given the option? Right now, the answer would be no. I know people raved and thought he had a excellent Euros. I didn't. I thought he was okay. I didn't think he really stood out as a player. When you look at Yamin, or Yamal, whatever he is, whether you look at him, whether you look at Nico Williams in particular, Dani Olmo, those are the players. Those are the kind of players that I felt stood out. So those are what I would call a standout players. So I think there's a lot of potential with him, but he's popped himself off to Leipzig again for a further 12-month loan. So that means that PSG aren't quite ready for him. And if the French league isn't ready for him, I don't think that the Premier League is ready for him at this point in time, Scotty. But I do believe there's a player in there, and I think it'd be a different question in 2 years' time, 18 months to 2 years' time. So I hope that answers your question, Scotty. Lads, do you want to just quickly jump on that very, very briefly?
Tom,
do you want to just jump on Javis Simons just briefly?
I probably wouldn't take him for Bruno right now, but if we're bringing in two midfielders, I'd have brought in Ugarte and Javis Simons on loan because I thought we was actually going to buy Ugarte, and then we might have loaned Simons in and done what Leipzig are doing for 12 months, and then you have an option or obligation, whatever, to buy him at the end of it, and then we might buy him or not and just trial it. But yeah, I probably would be saying with Stu, maybe see in 12 months' time and we might revisit it. He's not going anywhere. So
no. Excellent. Scotty, I hope that answers your question. Right. Question from Mark. Sorry, I was just reading something which I shouldn't have done. Right. Question from Mark and this is to you, Tom. Does Rashford even get in as a starter next season over Garnacho? And if so, why after a garbage season? Mark straight to the point, as always. Tom.
Yeah. If I'm saying it as a fan, no. He doesn't deserve to, for me. And this stream, as we said at the beginning, has been based and centered around competition. And he had competition for that spot last season. And he didn't make it his own. I'm sorry. If you asked me 12 months prior, when he had that wonder season, he deserved to still start going into that following season. He doesn't deserve anything. I look at a lot of these squad guys, and I'm saying it for what it is, that they underperformed last season. They don't deserve, none of them deserve to start. A lot of them, they don't. You've got to fight for your spot. So I'm glad that some new players are coming in who are almost fresh, and they're going to be judged as soon as they come through the door. And it's almost going to be like, okay, prove that you're better than the new guy, or prove that you're better than the people that are amongst the options. And like I say, from what I see anyway, Ahmad, should he stay fully fit and he doesn't have another knock or anything on the toe, touch wood and God forbid, I think he'll solidify that right-hand side. And then I just think Rashford and Garnacho, again, fight for the spot, lads. Fight for the spot. So Rashford, mate, like I was saying before about, I can't remember, it was like with players like Shaw and stuff, when you've been here 10 years and stuff. Listen, Marcus Rashford, mate, you've been here a long time. Yeah, you might be the poster boy for Man United. You might be come through the youth ranks and, have the boyhood fairy tale story. It don't wash. It lasts only for so long. Correct. And then you actually have to start performing and actually start showing things. But if you ask me as a fan, Mark, I don't think he should start, no. Do I think he will probably start? I probably think he will, yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. Mark spoke fondly about you on his show this morning, Tom, so I thought it was good that you answered Mark's question. Thank you, Mark. I hope Tom's answered that for you.
I love that Tom really broke it down to from a fan's perspective.
Yeah.
He shouldn't start, but like knowing what Ten Hag has been doing, like we'll see him in the Community Shield versus City. And that's the
Absolutely.
reality.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Right, question for Jarvis. Looks like the gaffer's given him a tongue-in-cheek one here. Jarvis is a luxury selection problem, choosing driver or 3-iron of the tee. What matters is you plan to reach par, under par. So I think the gaffer's saying, are you good enough to use a driver, or does a 3-iron? I'm not so sure what the difference is, but
it's the length. It's the length.
Yeah, you get a bit more.
Yeah. The driver is the most difficult club. But well, I just bought myself a hybrid. It's like a hybrid between an iron and a wood. So it's much easier to play, and it's a little bit softer, so it's easier for a beginner to play with. So for me, I'm playing at the moment currently mostly with the hybrid. But I can use the driver. Yes, I love playing, smacking it with the driver. So yeah,
excellent.
And while we're at it, I just want to show this picture of me playing.
Oh dear, look at that! Oh, hold on. Are you in a golf buggy?
Look at that.
You don't even walk around.
No. I play
walk around
every day.
You really now you wonder why it took him 8 hours to do the course and get there. Now you wonder why they were to show guys.
Well, I think I would have showed a picture with you, walking around with it on your back, that type of thing. Yeah, that's what I'd have been doing.
Nah. He doesn't have a caddy. He's not a professional player now.
No, I need a caddy.
I'll come over and caddy for you. He'll say to you, what club do I need? Well, I don't know that. That'll do. Try that. Pappy, Mark is back. We love Mark. Mark says, if Sancho is not sold based on pre-season, he'll be starting off the left for me and Garnacho off the right. Let Sancho and Rashford fight for the left. Garnacho and Antony, Ahmad fight for the right. I guess he's asking for your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, if it was if it was us, the fans, making the decision, I love the fact that Sancho is somebody that, doesn't rely on pace. Like, he has a little bit of acceleration when he dribbles, but like that's as far as it goes, so he likes to keep things simple and only really dribbles like at moments where like you'd expect a winger to really try and actually take that man on. So I love that. It's refreshing seeing that the preseason game. I think he started Sancho on the left versus Rosenborg, if I'm not mistaken, or it might have been Rangers actually, and there was something that was cohesive in terms of our ball, like keeping ball possession. The ball was just like always in possession, and it wasn't always us spamming crosses, trying to catch the defensive fullback, sleeping, So that sort of element is refreshing to see, and I really, really would love to see Sancho on the left. I want to see not Garnacho. I'd love to see Ahmad, contrary to popular, maybe some people may want Garnacho, but for me, our wingers, if it was me choosing, I would go Sancho on the left, Ahmad Diallo on the right. That would be the best way to have like our wingers really, really, really playing with like high IQ, link up passing, and taking the defenders on when you really need to,
Yeah. Excellent, Mark. I hope that's answered your question. Well put again from Pappy. Lads, we've had a rollicking off Brendan. Sorry, Brendan, we're pronouncing Zirkzee wrong. We're all saying Zirkzee. So it's
Mazraoui
and Zirkzee. Big up, Brendan. Thank you for correcting us. I blame Jarvis because Jarvis, that's all he says. So I just copy Jarvis.
Blame it on me.
Oh, absolutely. Tom, question for you from Whizzer. Whizzer, welcome. Thank you for your question. I think I saw you on Mark's show this morning. United are best staying in the Europa League. They need to break a cycle of being a yo-yo club in and out of the top 4, or they will never go anywhere. That's a really good point. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah. I'd probably make an argument to say I'd rather be consistently in the Champions League. I don't think the Europa League, to be fair, I don't think it's bad to develop players and give it just gives you another competition where you can rotate your squad. But with the way that Ten Hag uses his squad, listen, he could have a squad of 40 players. He'd probably only pick 18 of them that he actually wants to use in the end. That's just how the guy works. And he says that he works off of his squads based upon 15 to 16 players. That's what he considers his squad. 11 starting, 4 key bench players. That's it. That's not good. It's not good enough. And when you look at the squads that are in Europe right now, Madrid, they could probably fill 2 teams, and there won't be that massive drop off. City, they can fill 2 teams. Even Arsenal, to a certain extent, guys. People don't look at it. They're buying this little player here and there. Like Timber's still got to come into that team properly. He never played last season. They've just brought the new kid through the door. We've got all the attacking options.
Alapurini, or what's his name?
Good player, Alapurini. Very good player.
But, no, I get the point that you're saying, Wizard, in terms of United are best staying in Europa League. I do get your point, but the only thing that I'm going to say towards that is if we want to be progressive as a football club, the players, if a lot of these players are motivated by money, they want to be in the Champions League every single season then, because they get the Champions League bonus. By being in the Europa League, they get a quarter cup. By being in no Europe, they get 0 bonus. And for me, based upon the way that a lot of those players treated all of us last season, they put us through hell, a lot of them. I don't think they should have any bonus anyway, if you ask me.
Agreed.
Not a lot of them deserved it. I could maybe make a case for maybe 1, 2, couple of players. That's it. Out of 18, 19 players that consistently played through or with injury or whatever. But no, I think we do need to break the cycle. But I think the consistent consensus for right now is maybe for the next 2 seasons, try and consistently be in the Champions League. That's probably what I would say, consistently. And then from there, you bridge a platform where you can suddenly go from, okay, we're happy to compete, now let's actually win. Like I said, we've already had 2 seasons with Ten Hag, and listen, 3 years, I've always said, after in that 3rd year, that's where I need to see this jump. And if it's not going to be now, okay, it's got to be next season then. But I need to see some progression now to get behind something. Yeah.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much, Tom Wizard. I hope that's answered your question. Nutshell, a difficult one. We have touched on this earlier on in the stream. I think popular opinion is the answer to that would probably be yes, although we're not 100% in the know, although Pappy and Mark, I think you are both kind of leaning towards yes, aren't you, with all 3?
I think we're going to lend Ligt. As far as I know, it's obviously the contract terms with the player have been agreed. It's just the difference in valuation between the 2 clubs. And with Mazraoui, similar story. Like, I think he's had that 5-year contract offered to him. It's just the 2 clubs coming together. Ugarte is the one that's a little bit ambiguous. I feel like it might be a loan with an obligation to buy, but that honestly, there's so many different journalists, tier 5, tier 29, that have that say on it. But I'm sure we will know very, very soon. There should be clarity. Here we go on any of these 3 players this week. I'm expecting us to really have get one out of 3 of these deals over the line this week.
That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much for that, Pappy. Nutshell, you've asked that twice, so just to let you know that we hadn't ignored your second question. So I hope that's answered your question, and don't be worried. A question for the big man, Jarvis, from Badman, not Batman, but Badman. He said, can we not put a clause in contracts that part of the salary would be based on availability for selection? Jarvis, I think you can tackle that one.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very technical question when it comes to contracts. I think it wouldn't be a problem putting it in contracts, but could you get the player to sign on that contract? That will be the biggest problem because why work for it when you can get it for free? You know, that's the thing, and I think a lot of players feel that way. You was screwed. You know,
I'll just say the question. That's all.
I need a T-shirt that says that. You know, why work for it when you can get it for free?
No, sorry, no, sorry, I wasn't laughing at you, Jarvis.
But, from a technical point of view, I would like Tom to answer this. How would you see it?
It's a difficult
putting
question. It's a great question.
Say a clause in the contract and get a salary based on performance and based on games and based on how far we qualify into the Champions League or the playoffs or whatever. Is it possible, Tom? No,
not possible.
From my knowledge of MotoGP stroke World Superbike contracts, any clause is possible that you can put into it. It's just whether or not the both parties are agreeable. So you can make a whole host of suggestions within a contract. But if you are somebody like Bruno Fernandes, you'd probably say, yeah, whatever. But if you're Mason Mount, you know your injury record and history. So you would push against it with the club pushing it. So yeah, kind of bad. In answer to your question, you can insert any clause you want. But the agents and then probably the PFA would definitely push back on that. I can't imagine any player wanting to take it, but it can be put in. Would you agree with that, Jarvis? Or?
I agree 100%. I think it's possible, but as I said, I think it's a problem with the modern day, and it's not even the players; it's the agents, and I think the agents realize that that they can turn over Man United quite easily because we haven't been able to negotiate contracts in the past. But there will be different times, and from now we are run by proper footballing people and people who actually knows what they are doing. So hopefully this will be the future with clauses into the contracts.
Yeah.
You know,
sorry, go on,
Pappy. Really quickly, I'll be 10 seconds. But this question is such a brilliant question that made me look up a stat that might be fun for some people. But so according to research, 38.5% of Premier League defenders get injured. In general, injuries in football, they vary obviously depending on the type of player, depending on the level of play and the type of exposure and so forth. And there's some players that feel like they're more like injury prone than others. And that also boils down to like sort of that playing style, like Stu sort of alluded to. Maybe Bruno, whatever. I know I'll be available, because he knows how to sort of preserve himself in his style of play. But I really think it's a tough sell to say to an athlete that, listen, I will need you to give your 100% when you're training. And if for whatever reason you get injured, you won't get like your salary. That is a tough sell. And it will be a blind agent that will agree to something ridiculous like that. So in my opinion, you can get injured on the pitch, you can get injured in training, or even when you're just on your regular day-to-day activities. So it's a very, very tough sell for any player. I think there is even a clause for some players that like you can do activities that expose you to high injury activity. Skiing, if you're a professional football player and you want to go skiing, there's some contracts that actually forbid things like that. So this is a very, very, very tricky thing about the things you can do and can't do as a professional football player. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to protect yourself as a player, so you'll sign a contract that says you're getting paid whether you're available or not available.
It's a great question, Barman. I'd like to see him put an attitude clause in, but again,
that's the one we need.
But Barman, I hope Jarvis and Pappy have answered that question to you. Thank you very much for that. Mark, what size boots do I wear? Can you send me a pair of cleats? I'm actually a dainty but powerful size 8.5 foot. So, but I might see if I've got any cleats for you that I could send over to you. I've got loads of boots floating around somewhere, so watch this space. An even better one here for the lads. The beautiful Vicky has said she'll wear a Sancho cheerleading outfit wearing black and yellow if he goes to Dortmund. I know, get it out, yes. Or red, white, and blue if he goes to PSG. You would look dashing in either of those, Vicky, for sure. And here's a beautiful one for John. Charlie. And Tommy Boyle 71 says, "Is Bert Reynolds your dad, you handsome bastard?" That's what I was laughing at. I couldn't help it.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. Bert
Tommy,
Reynolds.
I'd like to tell you, he has been on the sunbed for the past couple of weeks. So
yeah, well, Bert Reynolds, what kind of movies did he play in? Boogie Nights. Wasn't he the pimp in Boogie Nights?
Well, yes, but he was in Smokey and the Bandit. He was the bandit in Smokey and the Bandit. That's what you call it.
Yeah. But he's like kind of like Tom Selleck-ish with the stash.
All right, you paint yourself a bit high here, Jarvis. Yeah, lower it down a bit. Crikey. Oh, bloody hell. You know, Pappy's going to be saying he's Denzel Washington next.
Right. I'm here trying to figure out which side I look best on. You know?
Well, I haven't got a hope then, have I? You know, when you pair studs, I haven't got a clue, have I? Crikey, what do I look like? Gary Lineker, I think I would.
Yeah, that's a question for the VAR room. Who is Stu Wallace look like? Got to be a famous person.
Look, I can't compete with you handsome bastards. I can't. I bet you Tom's better looking than me as well. You back here, Tom. Right then, Lilith has got a question. All of you. Anyway, Big Ed Maguire is he going to Real Madrid? Well, I think that might be a short answer, that one, Lilith. I think Pappy's already answered that one for you. Dear me.
No chance, Lilies. No chance.
I'll sign it off with thank you for your question, Lilith, but I think there's a big fat no. Johnny K. Now this will be an interesting question because Johnny K knows his stuff. A question for the panel. I know it's still a couple of weeks before the start of the season, but which team do you think will have an unexpected good season, and who do you think will underachieve? Jarvis, start with you on that one. Great question.
Okay, I can do the unexpected good season. I think it will without a doubt be Aston Villa, because they have been cooking in the transfer market. Unai Emery is getting a lot of backing from that board and that club. I think he will finally achieve his, because he did this with was it the Sevilla? He won the Europa League so many times, and I think he's just that type of manager who can actually get the best out of these players. So Aston Villa, without a doubt, I thought about it the other day, and actually I was thinking Manchester City are on a decline.
100%.
They're getting older. Kevin De Bruyne, I think, is 34 years old. Haaland didn't look superb. He didn't look like a machine last season. And the rest of it, we won in the FA Cup final. So maybe there's a chance that Aston Villa and Arsenal will have a title race this season. Don't clip me on this, but I just had
clipped. Getting clipped. Pappy. What do you think?
Part two of that question I'll take and say underachievers would. I somehow got this instinctual feeling that the slot machine is not going to slot well. Like I think like Liverpool will have some moments of turbulence that will see them just fall out of the top four race even before Christmas. So that is that they haven't done anything in the transfer window. That one of the big teams that is sort of like just dormant. And the question is, how can a manager just come to a squad and not really like have like, I need this player type of like, assertion to his board and say, I'm just gonna go work. Chelsea has got new players for Enzo Maresca. How come with Liverpool? I don't know what's going on in the Liverpool FSG house, but I just feel like they will have a lot of turbulence this season. So I list them as one of the underachievers. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I'll say with Liverpool.
No, good one. I'm kind of with Tommy. You back?
No,
I'm kind of with Jarvis. I think there's an implosion coming in the blue half of Manchester. I really do. I can see something's not right with them, and I don't really care. I'm quite happy about that, but there's something isn't right. Ipswich, watch out for Ipswich.
Ooh, yeah.
That's all I'll say. I just think they'll have a good season. Where it'll take them, I don't know, but I just think they'll have a good season. Jarvis, Mark has asked you a question. He's given you a bit of a bollocking, really. He said you didn't mention Max Bier. And if he comes, what do you think Rude working with him would be like? Solskjaer-esque, or maybe Wheatley?
Well, first of all, are we really signing a third striker?
It's been rumored, hasn't it? But I don't know. I it's not come across anything I've seen. But
yeah.
So
and I think from the first couple of games we saw in the preseason, I think Ethan Wheatley, he looks ready. I think he's ready to be the third or fourth striker coming in and do a role, especially with the amount of games Europa League. So for me, I don't see us signing another striker. Max Bier is an interesting guy, Solskjaer-esque, yeah. But maybe we are just thinking of this for next season. I don't know. But if we can get him, yeah, that would be brilliant. And I don't know what we are talking about. Poppy, how much money are we talking about for this guy? Are we talking about 10, 15 or 50?
He's on the thumbnail, apparently.
Yeah, I really don't rate this story, honestly. I know that like Mark mentioned the name of the journalist, but I don't think there's any water in it. It's just paper talk. I don't think it's gonna happen, honestly. So that's why I'm not giving it too much of my attention. I see that Mark says 34 million euros, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Mark, I hope that's answered your question. We're struggling a bit with that one. Maybe we need to do a bit of digging. Jarvis and Mick, I know, talk regular, so maybe Mick's got an angle on that one. Pappy, Vicky is saying, is there something in Rashford's contract that he has to start? It's a good question, that.
Vicky, it almost feels like that, because here's why. Last season, I just saw a manager give an answer that I had never heard before when he's backing a player. They said he's in a bad moment right now. What are you going to do as a manager to get the best out of Rashford? And he said, play him until he picks up form. That I've never really heard that. And that for me made me feel like, wow, there is probably, because like we can only speculate. We've never really looked at the details of his contract. We don't know the clauses. We don't know the terms and conditions. We don't know nothing. It's between Rashford, his agents, and the club. But it feels like he's been promised in the renewed contract that he signed not too long ago. He's been promised X amount of minutes or X amount of starts. And that is partially why he keeps on being selected. That is my inkling with how Rashford is getting all these starts, even though sometimes he may need to just just reset, recharge, sit on the bench for a while, look at what other players are doing, and then you can get back to your best. But hearing Ten Hag answer the question like that, the press conference question like that, made me feel like, well, he's one of those that has minutes promised to him, just like, say Jude Bellingham has minutes promised to him by Real Madrid, So, yeah.
It's a good question, Vic. I hope Pappy has answered that.
Can I just chip in quick? Because for me, I think in a competitive environment, you should avoid stuff like that in any contract, even if you have Messi in the team. There's no way players should be having contracts and getting picked before better players because the contract says so. It's we should be more professional than that. So I hope not, for Rashford's sake and for the club's sake.
Excellent answer. Scotty is back. Question for Jarvis. That's a good one as well. If Hojlund had the Sancho of Dortmund like Haaland did, do you think he would have got top 4 and further in the Champions League? So I think he's saying, what his output be?
Yeah, we all felt last season that Hojlund lacked service, and but I think Hojlund has a bigger potential. I think he needs to learn to play without service, actually, because if you know Ten Hag and his strikers like Haller in Ajax,
yeah,
they are on their own a lot of the time. They have to be big, they have to be strong, they have to be able to keep hold of the ball, not lose possession. I mentioned a lot of times last season that he needed to develop his hold-up play, how to shield the ball, hold up his arm, how to touch the ball with his closest foot to the ball and use his other leg to protect the ball and hold off the defender. There's a lot of things Hojlund can do to improve his game, and I don't think he will ever get the same service as Haaland did with Sancho, because they play much more of a fluent attacking style with wingers and fullbacks bombing on all the time, and I don't think we will do this with Ten Hag. So it's more of Hojlund developing his game to be a better striker. And they're both tall, they're both blonde. Their names, surname starts with an H, but it's not comparable.
I certainly think that will be interesting. Scotty, I hope that's answered your question. Tom, you're back, yes?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, there's a question for the whole panel. And that is your favourite Manchester United player from the 80s until now. Very difficult one, that one, because there's been a multitude. But I will go first. If I had to draw down on one player, that would be Sir Dennis Irwin, or it would be Ruud Van Nistelrooy - Dennis Irwin. So I could combine the two to the singular. But if I was pushed, it'd be Dennis Irwin. Oh, it's all quiet. You're all struggling, aren't you?
Say for me, it's Roy Keane. There's just like something about the way, the aura that Roy Keane has, what he stands for, like, and he just like the fight that he used to sort of bring to the squad. It's not only just against the opponents, but also galvanizing his fellow teammates. He's somebody that, honestly, for me, that's the epitome of what a Man United player should be. I loved early Wayne Rooney as well. Early Wayne Rooney gave me some special moments for me that, like, I when he started dropping deeper and being like the player that playing in midfield and finding the passes and stuff, that was good. But like, I really enjoyed the Wayne Rooney that used to rile up the opposition defenders, and he was just lethal. There's something about him that just had so much fight and bulldog mentality to it that I'd say he's up there in terms of my favorites. Keno.
Tom, who would you go for, pal?
Yeah, I'd go for King Harry.
King Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't. No, there's no arguments there as well. Crikey,
No,
I could have gone for Wilson
yeah,
from the
it just
80s.
embodies a lot of the club. To be fair, there's many players you can use to describe that. Papu's mentioned the one in Roy Keane. I mean,
Yeah.
Brian Robson's another one. If you want to inherit it, there's a lot of players. There's some names that you just think about of the old-fashioned Manchester United teams, and out of all the starting 11, you can always pick that one player who embodies what this club is all about.
Yeah.
And in the modern day squad, when we look at it, say now, I don't personally think we've got that player. Not right now, anyway. Maybe might develop it in a couple of years' time, but I look at a lot of the young players that have come through our ranks, guys, and they get to this first team squad. Did they really embody what this club means, even though all the history and the legendary players that have come before them? Not so sure. Not for me, anyway.
No, that's fair enough. No, King Eric, yeah, why not? And Jarvis finishing off for that one.
See, yeah, Robo. See, Witterbird mentioning he was one of my favorite players, but I would actually say when I was younger and fell in love with Man United, one of the players that I really liked was the young up and coming winger we had in Lee Sharp at the moment when he came in. He was one of my favorites. I always, when he was scoring, run down to the corner flag, doing the Macarena and having fun, you know. And
Oh, I thought you were going to say the wizard that was Steve Coppell then. And again,
well, the two, but me, I think Lee Sharp was one of my idols when I was younger, you know, like a kid, and pretending to be a
He's got really sharp hairstyle.
Yeah. So at the moment, but yeah, when you speak about legends, you have Robbo, you have Eric Cantona, Roy Keane. There's so many of them. But personally, yeah, Lee Sharp.
Well done. Thank you, Colin. I hope that's answered your question. I hope you've put yours in the comments as to who your player was. But great question. Vicky would like to know how possible is it that Manchester United would go back to a 4-4-2 this season. My opinion on that would be a 3-5-2 would be better suited with the players if we get them all in. Jarvis?
Yeah, I just want to say the 4-3-3, 4-4-2. It's very easy to shift the formation. We will basically start every game in a 4-3-3, I believe. But it will be a 4-2-3-1. But when we go into a 4-4-2, we move down the wingers into the midfield, and our attacking midfielder will be a number 10. So we will have 2 strikers and 4 in midfield. So we will play both 4-3-3, 4-4-2.
Also in defense.
And we saw it in the FA Cup final how the wingers dropped down and helped to compact the midfield. So basically 4-4-2 and 4-3-3 is the same formation nowadays.
Jarvis, I want to piggyback off of Vicky's question and say, in your perspective, who are the ideal midfielders in a 4-4-2 system for Man United with these players that we have and the ones that were rumored with? Just curious.
Well, ideally, it depends how we want to play and you know how type of football we want to play. Because I read someone like Swedish Rumble mentioning it's about the player's ability. You know, we can't, for example, Pep. You have brilliant wingers, let's say Jack Grealish and Bernardo Silva, but they will never in a million years work in a counter-attacking team with the defense and the midfield playing low, and they had to depend on their pace to run in behind, for example. They will be crap players. So it depends on how we want to play our style. And for me, now if we want to play a possession-based football, the wingers for me would be Ahmad and Garnacho. I think they're two-way players. They can run down, up and down, and they can keep possession, but they have a little bit of everything. So for me, they are much better as an option than, for example, Rashford, who's much more of a counter-attacking player, a guy who has extreme pace and can run in behind.
And who's inside? Who's inside? That's the one that.
Oh, inside. Yeah, that's Kobe 100%, and the other one would be Ugarte. But if we can't get Ugarte, I'm fine with Amrabat because I think he can play that role at the high level if he gets consistency and get a good preseason and get into form.
Wow, Jarvis is benching Bruno. Incredible.
Yeah, I think Bruno is going to be the starter. But I think Bruno is going to be the starter.
Wow, Jarvis is benching Bruno. Incredible. Wow, Jarvis is benching Bruno. Incredible. Wow, Jarvis is benching Bruno. Incredible.
Well, Bruno is the camp.
Okay. Okay. No Zirkzee. So
Yeah.
okay, Bruno is the second.
Make sure we say it right. Zirkzee.
Zirkzee.
Brendan will be
Thank
after you.
you,
Brendan will be
Stu.
after you.
Thank you.
Vic, I hope that's answered your question, sweetie. Bruce Willis, that's obviously to you, Pappy. From
Oh no, it's for you. Your lookalike, Bruce Willis.
Oh, he's right then. Bruce Willis is a hell of a good-looking character. He's a hell of a good. Yeah, he's a. Oh, thank you, Mark. That's how you do it. Just pick which ones you want, pal. I'll get them. They're all yours, mate. All yours. You can have the lot. Brilliant. Thank you, Mark. Vicky's got another question. We'll come back to that one. Jarvis. Oh. Your thoughts on the new set piece coach? I think he's one of the best in the business.
Yeah, the guy from Lillestrøm in Norway, the Norwegian Premier League. I heard good things about him. I think it will be brilliant. And this is a place where we need to improve. We have been struggling on set pieces, corner kicks, you name it, last 3 to 4 years. So both in offense and defense, especially defense, I think we have struggled. I think the players don't understand quite the sono man marking mix up that we are trying to do. And they look lost a lot of the time. So we need a clear voice, a guy who knows what he talks about. And this guy from Lillestrøm comes in. I think that's a brilliant move from Ineos. Yet another way that proves that they mean business and they are footballing people in charge.
Yeah. We'll move on from that. But my opinion would be, why do we need a set piece coach? If you don't know where to stand as a centre half, and you've been playing the game for 15 years, you've got issues, but there you go. But no, I get it. I understand modern football.
It's play and counter play. And nowadays,
I understand it. I mean, we played a hybrid system last season, actually. We played a zonal marking and a man marking.
And we conceded a lot from set piece, from corners especially.
I know, too much. But we allowed, when you play a zonal and hybrid system, you allow the runners 2 or 3 yards. So once you allow a runner onto you as a centre half, unless you're running into him, he's always going to get a jump on you. Yeah. And that's not ideal. Danny, I hope that's answered your question. Question for the panel from Michael. And he would like to know, do you think Kevin De Bruyne to Saudi is possible this transfer window? Tom, I'll let you start with that one.
I would probably think not, considering that the more likely option is that they'd probably sell Edison to Saudi Arabia. So then they would get a bit more money for the buck. And I don't necessarily think that City are looking at the open market and thinking of replacing De Bruyne right now, because I think if they was going to replace him, I think they would already negotiate for somebody. Or what City normally do is they sign a player and then they bring them in for 12 months, integrate them, and then they take over. They did it with Rodri and Fernandinho. Fernandinho stayed on, I think, as well for 2 years after Rodri was there, when he was only planned to actually stay on for 1. And then he ended up just taking the baton on from him and carried it on. And as long as now, anyway, he's still there. I'd probably argue that De Bruyne probably going to be a little bit of a similar story. Maybe 12 months' time, be 33, 34, high wages. Again, ship him off to Saudi, last payday, MLS, do whatever you want, KDB. I don't think you've got a lot left to prove. Won everything in the game, arguably, at club level anyway. We know about Belgium, internationally, they bottle it, but that's just how it goes. You can't help where you're born.
No, that's true. That's true. It's a difficult one to answer. I think I'm leaning towards you, Tom. I think De Bruyne is on the decline, actually. I think he had a very, very poor Euros, very poor ends of the season. Not the player. I don't think he'll make much difference to City at all next season. So, I think he'll run 12 months and then I think he'll be gone.
And Stu, may I add that I think the player that actually is in contention of potentially leaving at Man City is Julian Alvarez.
Yeah.
All the Pep kind of already came out and said he thinks the squad is going to remain the same, but Julian Alvarez is the one who's not necessarily, he's happy he got lots of minutes, but he knows that whenever the big games come, he
doesn't play.
First one to take.
Yeah.
So I really think if we are hijack FC like we've been, we should go cause a little
Tevez 2.0. Is that what you're thinking?
Tevez 2.0. Just imagine that. Yeah,
he's quality. He could add something different.
Well, we were linked with him, weren't we? Ironically, before he ended up at City, but just shows the ineptitude of our team. Pappy, I've got a question for you from Vicky. Bless her, and a question she has on progression on managers. A really interesting question. Is she's talking about squad building? How much leeway do teams get before managers get sacked? Or is the manager getting sacked first? I.e., how long do you give a squad rebuild? Is what she's asking there.
I think,
and then we'll finish off with Jarvis.
Yeah, I think in a rebuild process, it also depends on what you're rebuilding. To be exact, you have to also assess the extent to which you're trying to go as well with your rebuild project, right? So looking at the damage that has been done, how horrible this club has been treated. The reason why we're stuck with so many players that we're struggling to get rid of is because of all the years and years of neglect from the Glazers. So I really feel like patience is a key word, is a buzzword from Sir Jim Ratcliffe about the rebuild process. And in this moment in time, you sort of need to just look at Manchester United with a little bit of longevity and say, there will be some players that are signed that will probably not work out, that may seem to work out, that you may think they may work out, but it won't be like Ineos is going to get every decision 100% correct. So in the part of the rebuild journey, you have to be aware that there will be ups and downs, and patience is really required. So our case in particular, I really hope we do not go back to say another club that's in rebuild, Chelsea, that have gone through managers, chopped and changed so many managers, and then they saw that that hasn't got them anywhere, so they ended up giving Enzo Maresca a 5-year plus one type of contract. So I was hoping that in Ineos backing Ten Hag, they would go and make a bold statement and give him like a 3-year contract as opposed to just a very, very short contract. So to just summarize that, I feel like it's important to know what the ambitions of the rebuild are, and then you really have to take that into consideration in terms of how much leeway you're giving the players and the manager. So yeah, that is my thoughts on that one, by the way.
Excellent. Okie dokie. Jarvis, Wizard. Why did Pep sign Haaland? God on him, he messed it up. I wouldn't say he messed it up, but
it's an interesting question because it's many levels on that question. And did Pep really sign Haaland? Because he never played with a striker before that. Now it feels like his tinkering, his formation is always fluid. We know from its time at Bayern and especially by Barcelona. He never played with a striker. It's always about movement. It's about people shifting. So I don't know. I don't think Pep signed Haaland. I think Manchester City did it. I think it was a statement signing to get City up another level. They didn't have like a superstar, and I think City commercially made a lot of money on the Haaland signing. And now I see, especially in Norway, you see young kids, small kids, 6 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old, everybody wearing a Manchester City shirt with Haaland on the back. He's their star player.
It'll be Real Madrid in 2 years' time. I think everybody knows City's a stepping stone for Real Madrid. Great question, Wizard. I hope that's answered your question. Final question, lads. It's for all of us from Stephanie. And so we'll start with Tom, Pappy, Jarvis, and myself. Question to panel. Will United win the Premier League before we move to our new stadium? And if so, when? Sorry, Tom, you can fire first bullet on that one. Tom? Okay. Tom's obviously got another business call, guys. Pappy, you may fire first bullet.
The Premier League is a tough one to honestly, realistically say, to make a guess on it. But if I was going to put a number to it, like Stephanie's asking, saying, if so, when, I think 26, 27 season, we will win the Premier League. That is I'm gonna go on record and just say that I think this coming season the step should be learning to challenge for top 4. The season after, it's sort of like clearing more Deadwood. As I said earlier on, it's just like we've just had so much rot in our club that it's not something that's fixable in one window. And we need at least 3 transfer windows to really say we've done a fully big repurge, flushing out, cleansing. We need to really see that happen. And until that happens, I don't think we're going to see the Premier League. I want it to happen. I want it to happen ASAP. I want it to happen this coming season, but I just have to prep my heart.
That's fine. Jarvis.
Yeah, the problem is progress never happens in a straight line. And we haven't seen Ineos for real what they can do and how they will act when the tough gets going. We saw glimpses of that last season when we were on a losing streak. There came rumors out that Ten Hag was going to be sacked. Miraculously, we won the FA Cup, and they took 4 to 5 weeks before they could make up their mind if Ten Hag even was going to stay. If we start the season well, I think we can build on that. If we start losing, and remember we have Fulham, we have Liverpool in the first couple of games, we have Manchester City. I don't know. Maybe they will hit the emergency brake after the season, start shifting out a whole group of other players, shifting out the manager. We have to start over and over again. So I don't know if they were patient enough, because they're all winners and they want to achieve success quite fast, I believe, even though we are building on the academy and stuff like that. So I would say I would give it at least 5 years for us winning the league. 5 years at minimum, and maybe up to 10 years, because there's an extremely big job and we gotta be realistic. I know we are in the honeymoon period with Ineos. Everybody feels euphoric at the moment. We are getting the players we want. We are getting rid of a lot of Deadwood in a way, but I feel that it will be difficult because of the big death and the Glazers has mismanaged us for a lot of years, and it won't be fixed overnight. So it's up to us as fans to be patient, and it's up to Ineos to be patient and know progress is not linear. It will be up and down, up and down, up and down, and they need to have a steady hand and have a vision and know what they're doing, and realize it will take 5 years, maybe, or maybe more.
Yeah, definitely. Tom, are you back? Did I hear you?
Yeah, go on.
Way, Tom's back. Stephanie's asking, when do you think Manchester United will next win a Premier League? Do you think we might do it before our new stadium?
No, I'm in the same boat as Jarvis. I think you're talking 4 or 5 years. The best way that I can say is, even you've had a Liverpool team that strove and they got 97 points in one season. It still weren't enough to win the league. You had them run City twice all the way to the last game of the season. They still couldn't beat them. You've had Arsenal last season put them all the way to the wire, even though it was against their odds that they would have won it. They still took them to the line. Didn't do it. There's many teams that have gone up against that City side over a whole season. They get to the final 3 games of it and they buckle. Whether it's fatigue, tiredness, injuries, whatever it is, they buckle. But City have always got that mental blocker over teams because they've been there, they've done it, seen it all, done it before. Got the t-shirt. Unless I think he will anyway in the next 3 years. I think Pep will leave personally in the next 3 years. I think he will go. Take a leave from football and come back at another point. I think he'll do what Klopp's done. Take a leave from football for a little bit of time. As soon as he leaves, that's by the point that Pep leaves in 3 years' time. I want Manchester United to be in that position where they can challenge and they can properly go for it with teams. Because unless your team that you have is special, you won't challenge that City team. And the best way that I can say for it is you need to win 32 or 33 games out of 38 games in the season. And we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. We're not with this squad right now. And I think in maybe even two seasons' time, you're still going to struggle. But the best case that I can say for us is, for this season, let's see an actual style of play. Let's see us actually go front foot football. Not like what we did last year when we almost gun-ho when we left the back door open. But let's actually see some patterns, some actual coordination with the team throughout. Defence to midfield and to attack and so forth. Let's actually see some consistency. Let's have a clear style of play. Let's be entertained. And whatever comes at the end of it, comes at the end of it. But like I say, in 3 years' time, I want to be in that position where, in this conversation where Arsenal will probably be in and around there, Liverpool, we don't know about with Slot if he's going to take the mantra on or whatever. But if he does, fair enough. I want to be in that conversation with these clubs. Because City will have a reset them for maybe a year or two, where they have a new coach come in, standards might drop for a year, and then they've got to try and go again. But I want us to be in that position, whether it's with Ten Hag or somebody else. I want us to be in a proper position where we can take it over. That's what I would say. But
no, great answers by all three of you. Do you know something? I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic, only a tiny bit, because you know I've been there with football. I know what it's like. You know, we had a up and down season at the mighty Tipton Town last year, but you know we've added 3 solid players in, and we're a completely different outfit just by those 3 players, and the mentality's changed within the squad. So I'm going to say we're going to put a tiny bit of a fight on this season, but we're going to drop off with 6 games to go. And I think we'll be in the mix for the following season, 25-26. I honestly believe that. I'm not just being optimistic for the sake of it or disagreeing with you guys for the sake of it. We all know football on this channel. That's why we're all here and we're talking. We all know something could just click. And when it clicks, you get a bit of momentum. So who knows? Guys, we have had a mammoth stream, 2 hours, 42 minutes. And we must answer Colin quickly. It's a very straightforward. Do we stay at Old Trafford or build a new stadium? Stay at Old Trafford or build a new stadium? That's all you've got to say. Jarvis, we'll start with you.
Yeah, new stadium.
Yeah, Pappy?
New stadium.
Yeah, I'll be short and sweet too. I mean, a stadium that can, Man United is a global juggernaut, and we need to, part of being on top is figuring out how to stay on top, and you have to stay up to date with the times. If you can get a stadium that allows 100,000 spectators, that is what you need to be able to give not only fans that are in Manchester, but fans from around the world, more opportunity for them to travel and be able to see some of the team that they love, So I really think we should build a new stadium. I love the fact that one has had memories and it's been there for almost a century or something like that. But it's time for us to build a new stadium for the next century.
Yeah, agreed. And Tom?
Yeah, I'd build a new stadium. I think especially from one of the games that they played on this US tour, I think one of the big talking points was when they went to the SoFi Stadium where they played Arsenal. The whole complex of that stadium, guys, cost $5 billion. The whole complex, the stadium, the lot, $5 billion. And you think about that roadmap that they put out where they want to build this. They don't just want to build a stadium; they want to build this whole complex. And it's almost like they want to do what City have done on the other side of Manchester, where they have the Etihad campus. They have the training pitch, the facilities, the women's stadiums there. It's all in one little complex. It's almost like they want to do the same thing. But what I would say is, if they budget it and they have, say, a piss pot of 2-3 billion, they've got Ineos have the industrial contacts. Listen, they build gas and oil facilities all the way around the world. They've got contacts if they want to build a stadium tomorrow. It's not a problem. But again, with the way that it's gone and everything, guys, just have a budget. Let's have some blueprints on the screen. But the one thing that I think is key to the whole part of it is I want the fans to have this engagement with what option we actually go down. I think a lot of the fans will probably agree on the new stadium, and that's the way that it's been worded that that Ineos want to go down. Okay, get us some blueprints, get us some templates, give us some prices, tell us how it's going to impact the club, and then let's go forward with it. But yeah. Unfortunately, it's got to that point where I think we have got to move on to past is new.
Yeah,
I'd like a new stadium. I'd like us to keep Old Trafford as it is, cut it down to a single tier stadium for, as Tom exactly said, what City are doing with the campus for the women and for the under 18s and under 21s. I'd love a beautiful arch on the way to the new stadium, commemorative of Manchester United, from some of the bricks and some of that. As you walk up to the stadium, you go through this beautiful arch. We must keep the tradition of the Holy Trinity where it is, and things of that nature must stay. And then in the new stadium, I'd love some kind of remembrance for every single player that's played for Manchester United on the back of a chair, name and number, and when they played, just something. One of the guys has said about the history of Manchester United, Marcus said it'd still be Old Trafford. It will be, and we'll embrace newness. But let's keep that history. Let's turn Old Trafford into a shrine that we can still love, go, and just do something that commemorates the old and the new in Manchester United. That's what I would like to see. Gents, thank you so much.
Ineos Arena, Stu. What are you calling it?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, me and Tom have spoken about this before. You could be callous and call it Ineos Old Trafford, but you get Ineos to pay the $2 billion for it. Becomes and it becomes an asset against Ineos, so it becomes an asset anyway.
That conversation, I think, as soon as they open the blue ribbon on it, guys, and it's going to be a debt deal in place where it's
of course,
it's kind of like what Spurs have done: borrow £1 billion or $1.5 billion, build the stadium, basically take a mortgage out on it for 25 years, pay the lease debt payments down, but because it's new, it's glitz and glamour, you'll get your revenues boosted and it'll be paid off by a decade or two. And then you've got a new stadium, nothing to worry about. Bob's your uncle, and you're a top venue in Europe for whatever event that you want. If you want boxing there, if you want concerts, football. Listen, Spurs have done it with the NFL where they've got a contract with them. You can do whatever you want with them at the end of the day. But that's the one thing that I think naming rights, I think, will come into it at some point. And naming rights is where you're probably going to have to see it if they do get a sponsor on board. And that's where I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because of the influence that he has over certain brands and certain companies, that's where I think then there will be that influence as to, okay, do we go down a sporting brand route and you get somebody like Jordan involved because Jean-Claude Blanc's got connections there if you want to do a deal? Do you go down the road of a car manufacturing company like Mercedes-Benz, who he's got connections with because he has a stake in the Mercedes Formula One team? and he could easily get a connection through there. And again, do you just stick with it with Old Trafford and, I don't know, put an Ineos logo on the top of it next to the Old Trafford badge and Ineos fund it through that way? But
that's what it's going to be. That's what it will be. I think, something like that. But we must.
I want to say let's just wrap up the Q&A session. It was a massive Q&A session today. A lot of questions. We will be back next Monday on Jarvis's Corner because it's getting late. But before we go, we have some gifts from Jonathan Liljeberg.
Jonathan.
So let me just play this.
Oh my God!
Thank you, Jonathan Liljenberg, coming in with a super massive 5 MUFC Realist TV memberships. Let me just scroll up and read out the new members. We have a Melis Kask, Danny B. Oh, Danny B, new member. We have Javis Cocker as a new member.
Oh, get him off.
Ten Liljenberg, your Swedish legend, you got.
Get him gone.
Get him gone. Bruno as a new member, and Gary C. Gary C. Gary C.
Welcome all apart from Jarvis. Welcome all apart from Jarvis.
What?
I love you, really, Jarvis, man. I love you.
All love. Yeah, it's been a brilliant show. Thank you, guys. I just want to hide, and then we close the VAR room. One last update on Wan-Bissaka before we call it the night, because there's some news from Rosmano coming in. It says that Wan-Bissaka is open to joining West Ham. The defender is waiting for the right contract offer from the London club. So now we know that maybe Wan-Bissaka is leaving. And this is the last news. Manchester United have apparently signed another youngster tonight. Samuel Luzan, Crystal Palace, after the winger rejected a scholarship offer. So another top addition is secured in the academy. Let's just call it tonight on the high note.
Yeah,
I want to thank Stephanie, Lillis, Colin, McMenamin, and We Deserve Better, AJ, Jonathan Liljenberg for his donations, and a lot of good chats. Danny B, Sanjay Ramatar, Michael Zachariah, Wizard with all his brilliant questions, Wiki Witterbird 84. Thank you, Wiki, for being a part of the show and your brilliant questions. We have Blitz Extreme, P99, Tommy Boyle. Oh, there's so many of you. Mark, did I forget? Mink7. Who else do we have? I just got to scroll up. So many comments. We have Johnny K. I can't read out all of you, but thank you everybody for joining.
And also shout out to the people also that were watching from my channel. I was co-streaming this to my channel.
Yeah, brilliant.
So big shout out to you guys as well.
That's my first appearance on Pappy's channel.
Hey,
come on. I've made it.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure to have you guys.
Yeah, and it's been a great show. It's been a lot of fun, a good tone. Everybody's been happy, and I think we have covered a lot of stuff on United. Next time, Jarvis's Corner will be next Monday, 9 p.m. Me and Stu and Tom will be here. I don't know if Poppy is available, but we will see. It could. If you're available, you're always welcome on the channel, Poppy, as you know it. Now Stu has to take a phone call, and I just have to call it tonight. So everybody, thank you for watching, and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for stopping by and watching MUFC Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.